Yep, good sound.
All right. Well, thanks and welcome everybody. My name is Bud Wassell, and I'm the coordinator of our Employee and Family Resources Program and have been involved in the peer support teams for a while. And I'm going to let my co-presenters, Vivian and Mary Pat, introduce themselves. So, Vivian, you want to go ahead?
Sure. My name is Vivian Burgle. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I also work in the Employee and Family Resource Program, known as the EFR. And I'm a consultant with them and have been involved in working in healthcare for probably 25, 30 years, and very happy with the peer support team at the Yale system.
Excellent. Mary Pat?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mary Pat Murray. I am a nurse in the ED and also at the Columbus House, the homeless shelter. We have a medical respite unit. And I'm one of the founding members of the team since 2011. And I'm passionate about it and so excited that you guys want to join and help each other, because that's really what it's about for me. We can't help the patient if we don't help ourselves. So thank you for being part of this.
Yeah, thanks, Mary Pat. So we've got a lot to cover today, as you can see by our agenda, and we hope that you're able to stay for the entire time. If you can't, let us know. The first part, as you see, for the first 45 minutes is really kind of the nuts and bolts of the program and the teams and how they work, your role. We do have a stipend set up, so you're going to hear all about that. The second part of that is the anatomy, what a peer support session is really, how it's structured and what happens in the session, and that's we have a video on that we're going to show, and then we're going to do, after the break, we'll have a 10-minute break. In the last part, the last hour or so, we're going to do a couple of mock scenarios, and we're going to give you a little chance to practice, and we'll each be in one of those groups. We're going to put you into breakout groups, and we'll practice an actual scenario session and just give you all a chance to see what it's like firsthand and what it's like. I'll say right up front, we're going to ask a couple of you in each group to role play the leader role, the co-leaders. It's not that hard. Hopefully you'll see as we go through this that it's a relatively straightforward process. And as we go through this, hopefully this gives you everything that you need to join a team. Now, taking the training doesn't mean you automatically have to join a team, but we certainly hope you will consider it, and we hope you have enough information. And so if you have questions as we go through this, let us know what those questions are if you're thinking about joining a team and what it means for you in your life. But I think Mary Pat said it well. I think we've established a really pretty amazing system with peers who are providing that kind of support to their coworkers when difficult situations arise in the course of work. And so we'll talk a little bit about those as well, the kinds of things that we respond to. But again, thank you and welcome. I'm glad you're here with us, and you can use the chat to ask questions as we go along, but also feel free to unmute yourself if you want to speak rather than type something out. That's fine too. All right, so let's see. I think this is Mary Pat.
Yes. Thank you, Bud. So as I was saying before, we started the team in 2011, and it was originally started to really serve the emergency department. We had two tragic deaths of beloved employees that were very close to each other. One was a night nurse that was like a mother hen to so many, and she died unexpectedly. And then a couple of months later, one of our techs had gone to Afghanistan, and then when he came back a couple months later, he also died. So people got this news on shift, and then people were crying. People were so upset because, right, our coworkers are like our family. Most weeks we spend more time with our coworkers than we do, our friends and family at home. So we got the news, and then it was like, okay, go back to work. And I was a newer nurse, and I didn't have as close relationships with the people who had passed. And I said, how is this even remotely healthy? It just made no sense to me. So Don Costa at the time also had a big heart for this type of work because he was a retired police officer, and the team was born. Like multiple nights, 3 a.m. in the manager's office trying to make flyers and get the word out. And so here we are about 13 years later. And, you know, the evidence-based research that we had done showed that when people come together in a group and talk with peers who understand the same language, our work language, if you will. I know a lot of our family doesn't understand that, and we try to explain things and then we get frustrated because they're like, what does that mean? You know, things like that. So we just don't talk. So when we do that in a group or even a one-on-one, it helps the brain to process those memories that are just bouncing back and forth, and that are unsettled. And that's why people experience burnout and PTSD. And I'm obviously paraphrasing and making this very short for, you know, this presentation, but there's a lot of research on that. So feel free to look it up. We got this from the military, from EMS, from police. They do these group debriefings, and we tailored it after our formal training. It was a 2-day training. We had 26 members. We kind of left that formal training from the Mitchell model and tailored it to what works best in the healthcare setting with the limited time and everything that we have. So it quickly left the confines of the ED, and we started providing peer support all over the hospital. And in the early stages, we went to the Newtown tragedy. We went to the East Haven plane crash. We've also supported other hospitals that didn't have teams at the time. So there's a lot of room for growth here. But for our purposes today, we will do it at each delivery network that we work and live in. So I'm going to share a video that kind of explains about the team. And don't worry if, you know, because of the connections, it's a little glitchy or the sound isn't great. You will get this link emailed to you when we email the slides. So let me just share this with you right now.
While she's pulling that up, I'll say again, if anybody joined and you didn't join via LMS, that's fine and welcome. But if you did not join through LMS, just let me know in the chat so I get you down on as being attended.
Great. Thanks, Bud.
We work with truly amazing people on a daily basis. Not only are they employees of Yale New Haven Hospital, but they are also mothers, fathers, spouses, and children of aging parents. Some of them have had a full day before they even got to work, yet they show up and put their best face forward for the patients every single day.
1, 2.
Most days it's business as usual, but sometimes staff faces challenges. These moments are called extraordinary events and can be too much for one person to handle. They can happen suddenly and without warning and can put you over the edge. This is precisely where peer-to-peer support enters in. Critical incident stress management is just that, one coworker helping another. The diffusing process helps peers form appropriate concepts about stress reactions before false interpretations are formed. Each member of our team has been formally trained in crisis intervention to offer support to their coworkers. All of our debriefings and diffusings are completely confidential and voluntary. Participants are given the opportunity to verbalize stressors, share reactions to incidents, and vent emotions. Regular use of the CISM team promotes memory reprocessing, increased job satisfaction, decreased physical ailments, and increased group morale, thereby achieving the goal of returning staff back to their work and family lives with a sense of closure and peace. Referrals to EFR can be made should the need arise for confidential counseling. It is important to understand that crisis intervention is not psychotherapy, but emotional first aid.
Oh, hold on.
And more recently,
I don't want you.
I'm going back to sharing the slides, so.
Thank you. You should
um,
stop. There we go.
see this next one. And I think this is you. So isn't that a good video? I think that just so nicely puts it all together. That was done a number of years ago with Mary Pat's team. And at the end there, it has, well, and we'll give you more details on the different teams that have now been created. But
So some of you might ask, what do we usually respond to? And we like to call it an extraordinary event. So that's described as something that has the significant emotional power to overwhelm someone's usual coping mechanisms. So you could see, say you're doing a code, and you've done a million of these and you're fine every single time, but there's something about this one, maybe it's the hair of the person or the shirt they had on. It reminds you of somebody in your family that just passed away, these things that can trigger responses that we're not expecting. And so in that, this is a list of the reasons that we've been activated for the most often over the years. So we have, patient death of a coworker, sadly, is a huge one and is why we started the team. Tragic deaths of children, COVID stress, and now physical, verbal, and sexual violence against staff, as well as difficult family members are really up there. And you'll see in a chart that we have moving forward, that's a lot of reasons why we asked to respond. So this is from 2019 to 2023, and it shows basically that list that I was just showing, but here you can see in the middle where it has staff assault and violence, it's above now death of a patient. So our post-COVID world has really affected us, and things that we were ready to just kind of brush under the rug, we can't anymore. So staff discouragement is also rising up there, and we can see that when we looked at the 2024 numbers. So we're trying to help mitigate this by having these meetings more regularly so people can talk. Thanks, Bud.
all right, and I think this is Vivian's, right?
Okay, I just had it on mute. Yeah. So you're probably wondering what exactly the role of a peer support team member is. And as you heard from Mary Pat, there are incidents that occur that are definitely overwhelming. And I think the past culture in medical care has been, suck it up. And fortunately, we no longer do that. And it's particularly good for peers to help peers because they know, as Mary Pat said, they know the language. So your role is to respond to fellow employees, and you know what their jobs are, the system, so you are particularly in a good place to help. And so what we call it is emotional first aid, and it's helping the people that you're leading to talk about the emotional impact, and also very importantly to refer them to appropriate resources. Our program, the Employee and Family Resource, EFR, is one of those, but there are certainly more resources. And you're not there to review or critique. It's not trying to find out what went wrong or right. It's really to discuss the emotional impact and to have everyone support themselves. So as you see, you meet, as Mary Pat said, either one-on-one or in small groups. It's usually small groups, and to provide that support. And to remember that this isn't counseling or therapy, but it's peer support, as it said. And you're really there to provide a safe place where you people can talk, and you role model, and you do the active listening, and of course being non-judgmental. So the most important thing is you're normalizing what's going on, that this is normal or expected, you like that word better, expected response to what's happened, and that you're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. It's an understandable response to what has occurred. And peer supporters don't respond to events that have been affected by it. That means if they're in the same unit, or perhaps they just had a death in the family and it's too raw for them, or they don't have to say the reason why they can't respond. They can just say that it's personally not good for them at this point. So Bud will talk about stipends.
Yeah, and by the way, we're going to make these slides available to you, so you'll have all that information. And if you're taking notes, you might just want to take supplemental notes, but you'll have everything that's in the slides here. So
And just one quick question, one quick comment was that I didn't mention was, you know, it's a confidential setting, and we'll talk about this more, that what people share does not go back to management unless there's a reason and they want it to and it's agreed upon. So that's very important to make it a safe environment. Sorry, Bud.
Yep, no, that's probably, you're going to hear that a lot. That's a cornerstone of our program and peer support. So it's so important for people to feel safe and that everything is going to be kept private. Way back in the beginning, the Yale New Haven team started the stipend system, and it's worked really well so that you're not really volunteering, although it is usually over and above your working hours. So the way it works is that if you're hourly, you would not respond while you're on duty. You wouldn't be expected to. Most may not have that flexibility anyway, especially if you're in a patient care kind of position, although we have people from lots of different job roles. So you could respond while you're not clocked in and as an hourly person, and then you would get a stipend of $150 for anything that you did that was up to 4 hours. And that usually means, and just to give it a sense, and Mary Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I hear, it's usually an hour to 2 of your time in terms of responding to a situation, and then following up. There may be occasional follow-up. You'll hear more about that. But that's
Yes.
the most common scenario, right?
Right, I agree. I would think most on-site activations are an hour, and then, you know, the second hour is your travel time or waiting for people to come, that type of thing.
Yeah. And we set up a $300 stipend for over 4 hours. I think it's pretty rarely used, but we just did want to make it something, if it was something really extraordinary and needed to put in more time. So that is set up for that. So essentially, it's the same thing if you're salaried. It's just that salaried folks may have a little more responsibility, and they could, with their manager approval, respond during their normal work hours. And if they do that, then they would not be given the stipend. But if they really respond completely while off the clock, not during their working hours, they could also receive the stipend. And we do have a central budget for this, so it doesn't get sent back to the department who's requesting the service. It's all done centrally through our, it's really under Employee and Family Resources, which is part of employee well-being and benefits and compensation. So there's a central budget that this is all paid out from. Basically, this is just to kind of reinforce this information. You're going to be providing information on that it is confidential. You know, even when you're not doing a session, you might be telling your coworkers or other people that you cross paths with about the program. And so emphasizing that confidentiality is really important. A big thing that's done, Vivian mentioned that we kind of normalize what's going on. And so we talk about expected common reactions to grief, loss, and trauma. And that's why you'll see later on, we have a bunch of handouts on that. But we try to really let people know that, yeah, you've been through something pretty extraordinary. You may be a very resilient person to begin with, but still there are situations where we have these common reactions to kind of grief and loss and trauma. You're going to be providing information on EFR, and we'll tell you all about that. We want you to totally understand that. And Vivian and myself are 2 links to that program, so we're always available, you know, if you need help connecting somebody with the program, and we'll tell you how that works. And then another important part of what we do in the sessions and when you provide peer support is to give people some informational and educational self-care practices, things to help in the next couple of days after they've been through an incident that might help reduce the stress and help you figure out, what's the best way for you to recover from this type of event. It is done with a team approach. So you'll see in a moment, we have 4 different teams at the main hospital throughout the network. And so it's not, you wouldn't be doing this independently on your own. It's all done within a team structure. So that's really important to know. What happens is requests can come from a manager of a department or from any individual. And I'll show you that in a minute. So the request comes in through the main switchboard, and then the switchboard contacts the team leaders. Mary Pat's one of the team leaders at Yale New Haven. Each team has a leader. The team leader then connects with the person who's requesting that assistance, and they coordinate the response. They set up, when's the best time, when's the best place to get the people who are involved all together in the same room. And sometimes that's done in a hybrid approach. Usually we try to do in-person, face-to-face, but occasionally it works really well where not everybody can get in the same room. So you might be doing something with people on Zoom or Teams who are not there, but they can join virtually. And we do provide this training. We provide some ongoing education. Each team has regular meetings. I think most are like every other month, just to kind of stay in touch. We do some things from time to time to try to help and support you in the role, especially if you're new. We'll talk about that too, how you can kind of shadow an existing team member who's experienced. But we set the system up so that you're not going to go into this completely cold and, without any support. We really want you to have some good experiences with this.
Also, I would add that, as Bud said, we are available. So if there's something that comes up for you as a peer supporter and there's not a meeting scheduled and you'd like to talk about it, we're available, and it's confidential to speak with us.
And in a minute, Mary Pat's going to give a little more detail on how that whole system works, kind of the protocol of the request and so forth. But just so you can see, as we mentioned, team members provide one-on-one and small group support. So it could be either that you might be doing. Sometimes you might do a small group intervention and then do a one-on-one with somebody who needs a little bit of a follow-up or something of that nature. So that does happen. We do have active teams, as you can see, at Yale New Haven Hospital, both campuses, at Lawrence and Memorial and Westerly. Bridgeport and Greenwich also have, they're the newer teams. They've been around for a couple of years. We'll show you some more information on that. And then, of course, we do try to include NEMG employees wherever. So NEMG employees, in fact, we have, I think, a fair number of folks who have joined the different teams. So like if you're in the Bridgeport area, for example, geographically, or where you live, you might join that particular team. And if an NEMG site is affected by an event, that team geographically would respond to that site. And as we've said, this is one of the trainings that we do. We've been doing them twice a year to recruit new team members. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to Mary Pat, and she'll tell you a little bit more about the system and how it's set up.
Great, thanks, Bud. And this is basically just a visual of what Bud was discussing before about how we request to activate the team. So typically, it's a manager, APSM, or charge nurse that will contact us either by email or by calling the switchboard operator at the New Haven team. I'm speaking for the New Haven team because that's the one that I manage. And then I get the message, and then I, reach back to them, and we decide when is the best day and time to come serve their unit. And we usually send 1 to 2 members. If it's 2 newer people, we definitely want 2, but if it's one person who's been doing this for a long time, usually one person can handle it. So we'd like to recommend that this happens about 48 to 72 hours after an extraordinary event. That's really when people want to talk. I just responded last night to the adult ED because there was a tragic shooting of a young person. And while you would think people would want to talk, they don't. It's just like, you're just in go mode, just want to get through the day, get home, but of course we want to be there just in case there's one person that wants to talk when we're, it's requested. So that's why it says here, it doesn't have to always be immediately following an event, because we all have full-time jobs, right? We can't just, unless they want to make somebody be on call, right? That would be fine. But, we try to make this work for everyone. If you could go to the next slide, Bud, that would be great. So then I do a text page. If I'm at work, I use SmartWeb. I send it out myself. If not, I go back to the switchboard operator and they send it. So you'll get a text on your phone that says the date, the time, if you're available. If you're not, you ignore it. You don't worry about it. Don't feel bad. We just ask that people could do 1 to 2 per year just to stay fresh and active. And I'll send the details. We don't send details of the whole thing because we want you to be engaged when you're there and to not have preconceived notions. But I'll say like last night, 15-year-old gunshot victim, staff upset, management requested, just basics like that. And then I'll confirm, usually by email or a group text that puts the 2 people that are going together so each other has their numbers. Because if I'm setting it up for 2 days in advance, things happen, right? Maybe your kid got sick or your car won't start. This way you can text the other person and, things just seem to flow very smoothly. One thing I did just want to add quickly, Bud, is that if you are on the New Haven team, we have started having peer support for the peer supporter groups. So opposite our bi-monthly team meeting where we talk about business, we have a bi-monthly meeting where anybody on the team can come and talk about anything that's going on in their life or a particular response that they did for the team that's upsetting to them. So it's just a safe place for us to be able to talk to so that, we can take care of ourselves and be able to help others as well. So thanks, Bud.
Thank you, Mary Pat. So just to give you a little bit of background and history, we had the Yale New Haven team, as you heard, it's been in existence for a long, long time, but also the Lawrence and Memorial team had been in existence for a few years. But so we realized that we wanted to expand it to the whole system. And so back in 2022, we started an initiative through workplace violence because, as mentioned, we've been seeing a lot more of those kinds of incidents where staff had been injured or assaulted or even verbally abused. I mean, there's all sorts of things, as you can imagine, that our folks are going through. So, we wanted to make this really a strong added layer of support. So we held these more in-depth trainings back in 2022, and we trained a lot of people, as you can see, and they joined the other teams. So we really added to the existing teams and created teams at Bridgeport and Greenwich. And as well as I mentioned, we want to make sure that we're serving NEMG. So that's something important too. We want to make sure that we extend out into kind of different corners of the system. We're pretty big, so we're pretty sure there's things we don't hear about, and there are times that probably don't get called. So that's part of our goal, is to make sure people know that we're in existence. So part of what the teams do too is to reach out. I know Mary Pat does this it's on a pretty regular basis out to nurse managers, for example, and other leaders to let them know. But and if you join a team, again, we would hope that you would talk it up a little bit and let people know about our existence. So Mary Pat, you want to just talk a little bit about, so we're going to go through the teams themselves just to give you a little bit of background on each team.
Yes, thank you. So the team leaders for the New Haven team are myself, Chris Chimura, and Heather Tolosano. And we cover each other when people are on vacation or, have a heavy work week or something like that. And we have a very, robust team. We have over 120 members that, would I say everyone's active all the time? No, but that's okay. Things is volunteer and things come up. But we have doctors, nurses, social workers, as you can see, a mixture of everyone. We would like more EVS, more food service, more transporters, because we really believe in the fact that this is multidisciplinary. I've worked with other hospitals and universities that have peer support teams, and theirs are really just MD focused or just nursing focused. And we really, Bud, Vivian and myself really love the concept that we don't work in silos. We all work together and we all go through this together. And so the sort of the language that they're talking about now is that when we struggle well together, we all do better. And so that's kind of the whole basis of this team.
Yeah, I was just going to add, if you don't mind, Mary Pat, that, the EVS, especially through COVID, but also ongoing, and, they're often transporting people that are, dying or in very dire straits. So they're exposed to a lot of trauma. And so we really want to be able to support them and have them support their peers.
Good point. And same thing with the Lawrence Memorial team. They had been in existence for a while, as I mentioned, but they did, as they expanded, they are reaching out and including Westerly Hospital in their catchment area. So as you can see, they've got a pretty good team of different roles, and their team leaders right now are Janine McDonald, Linda Hickey, and Stephanie Ellis is going to be joining, I believe, as a team leader. They've had a little bit of transition lately. One of their team leaders, Jess Somer, who's a chaplain, and I'll say we appreciated her role. She's retired, but unfortunately, so it's a loss to us, but a gain to, I think she's still doing some work as a psychotherapist, but we miss her. But the team is regrouping, and other folks are stepping up into leadership roles, and they're getting back on track. So again, they've been active for a while too, and people know about them a lot by word of mouth, and so they'll be continuing on. They would love to have other roles as well. You can see there's some roles that we would love to get on that team, but again, it depends on where you live and work as to which team you might be on, but they've been active for quite a while now. And then Vivian?
Yes, the Bridgeport Hospital has been fairly active. They started their first activation in October of 22. So they've been about 2.5 years, and they've done a really good job of getting the word out and responding. Of course, it's the more they do, the more people hear about it. And so, that's the goal, to get more people to call us or call the peer support team to respond. And again, there's gaps. There's EVS, which I think that people have the view that you have to be, professional to do this, or you have to be, have a certain degree. That couldn't be further than the truth. If you're a caring, empathetic person that wants to help fellow employees, that's the only criteria that you need. So we're trying to get out that word and, fill some of these gaps in all the teams. So anything you can do to help us, we certainly appreciate.
And there's the Greenwich
And
team.
Greenwich Hospital, they're more recent. They started their first activation in January 23, and they're working very hard to build their responses. They have the same issue of people that are, there's gaps there, same kind of gaps. And, Northeast Medical Group, of course, they're spread around, so it makes it a little more challenging, but they have a lot of things going on, and sometimes they get overlooked because they're not in the main hospital, but they're dealing with a lot. So we want to be able to get responders in that population. And Susan Burke has been one of the people that has been leading it up, and she's done a great job. And again, they have a nice team. They're working hard. So we just again want to fill some of the gaps. Next one. Oops.
Right. Okay. So we do have, the existing teams that were there first at New Haven and Lawrence Memorial and Westerly. And we like to integrate the new members by offering additional mock scenarios and also allowing shadow opportunities. So you might go through this training and be like, oh, it sounds good. I just don't know if I like it or if I'm going to be good at it. And so we can send you with a senior member to an activation and you can get an idea if this is something for you. You're not locked in by signing up for this training. So Bridgeport and Greenwich also practice mock debriefings and they coach and, consult when the activations begin. They are tied into EFR. We always recommend EFR at the end of every session for people who would like to avail themselves of the 6 free sessions. I kind of see us as, that link, breaking the stigma about, getting some extra mental health sessions. I think it's really a fabulous resource that we have at Yale. And they also offer shadow opportunities and collect some data as well. So Vivian, can you show the handouts and the flyers of what we need?
This is the cheat sheet you should have gotten. Can you see that?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
But,
it's
I have a slide on it later, but you should have gotten
it's a
one
whole page, and it goes through the anatomy of a peer session, which is what we'll be concentrating on talking about next. And we also have EFR fly brochures, which we can show you. And there'll also, which we'll discuss, there'll be handouts in the go bag. Mary Pat will tell you more about that later on.
So we're doing pretty good on time. Next, we're going to move into what a peer support session is like, and we're going to break it down for you. But let's pause here since we're doing pretty good on time. Any questions so far? We've covered a lot kind of quickly. You can use the chat or unmute yourself. Anything that you're curious about or we weren't clear about or whatever is on your mind? Anything?
I have a. I do have a question.
Okay, you can talk.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. Are you guys on mobile heartbeat?
Oh, what? Sorry?
That's a good question. We do not. I am on mobile heartbeat when I'm working, but the team itself is not yet. It's one of the future directions I would like to take. An Epic enhancement would be to just have a button where you could request through Epic, or actually have a mobile heartbeat for the peer support team. But you can always just, if it's New Haven team, you could always just message me or Chris Shimura, and we can get back to you as well.
And there was a question, I don't know if it was answered.
Yeah, I think it was the same question.
Oh, it was the same. Yeah, well, I thought it might be. Yeah. Anything else that anyone? Okay. Well, before we go into the anatomy of a peer support session, I just wanted to remind people that one of the things that came out of this is because we're not robots. When you do your work, you're going to be affected, and to realize that is completely understandable. And you're not robots, you're people, and so it's very important that you realize this and that you help your peers realize this, and that's part of what we'll talk about. So before we go into it, it's just basically we have introduction to the session, which is yourself, and we'll talk about that more, exploration, and then just education. Having education about what might be some of your expected responses cognitively, emotionally, physically, and kind of just educating people about that. And this sessions can take place, as Bud said, either remotely or in person or a hybrid. And, sometimes you're in very interesting places. When you do them, you might be in a crammed up OR room or, a break room with everybody coming in and out, getting their, stuff in their locker. So, it's not formal, it's informal, and it's, you adapt to wherever you are. That's the main thing. So we'll go through all of this very carefully, and certainly if you have questions, we want you to ask them. And I think there was just a question.
There is
Yeah.
a new one, Vivian, which I can certainly handle. And it's
Oh,
a good
sure.
question. Nathaniel asked, would you be supporting your peers within your department off shift, or does the program try to veer to you supporting outside of your department? So our recommendation is if you were directly involved in the reason for the activation, say you were there that day that we'll just say it was a code, and you were there, you were actually working on that patient, we would ask that you not lead a session because you've been directly affected by it. You can attend, right? You might need that. But if you were not working that day, or say you have a big department and it was somewhere where you're not near, you can certainly lead the session. That's fine. And we always love when you go to other departments as well. But if you are directly affected, we ask you not to participate. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you for the question. All right. So the first phase is the introduction. And I think this one is especially important because it really sets the tone for the meeting. Everybody's a little bit nervous coming together to talk about this event. I'm always a little nervous talking with people I, in some cases, have never met before. I know they've just been through a hard time. Am I going to do a good job? There's always things that go, even though I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I think a couple of things is that body language is super important. And so, if you're sitting there with your arms folded across your chest and you're looking at your phone and you're, not really interested, people are really going to pick up on that. So you want to try to bring your authentic self and, maybe have your hands in your lap or on the table. I like to have the cheat sheet there because it gives me something to hold. So I like to say, thank you so much for coming and allowing us to, serve you with this peer support session. I just want to go over some ground rules about what a session is, what it isn't, what you can expect. So we call that setting the stage. And I really, if I say nothing else in the introduction, I want it to be about the confidentiality, that people can feel free to say whatever they want. They can bash management, they can vent, they can't threaten to hurt someone, right? That's when we will say, okay, now I do have to report this if they threaten to hurt themselves or somebody else, just like it would be if we were in our clinical roles. So I do say that to people, but it is a chance for people to fill in the blanks of an event, because what one person saw and experienced might not be what was happening on the other side of the bed or the other side of the room. So it helps people to really put the pieces of the puzzle together. I like to say that we're not professionals, that we are offering emotional first aid as peers, again, as people that speak the same language. And our goal is to mitigate the impact of this event so we don't carry it around with us for a long time. And we, like I said, we can struggle well together or process the event together. And I don't insist that everybody has to talk. If there's somebody who's especially quiet, like we'll go around and say our names and introduce ourselves. And hopefully if I can remember everybody's name that's in there, if somebody's quiet, I'll say, oh, Jennifer, do you want to say anything? And if they say, no, great, no, thank you so much for being here. Because for some people, just to come in the room, that's the entire healing process for them. They got so far out of their comfort zone to come in and to listen and to be there. That's a home run for them. And we can just let that be. So anything I missed, guys?
No, you covered it all. I like the fact that oh, sorry, go ahead, bud.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I would just, emphasize that I think it is good to say up front that this is not a critique of what was done clinically or medically, that this is all about the emotional impact that this event has had on you. So really try to keep those lines clear.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we are not trying to do a medical debrief or an M&M or point fingers. And, that might come up as the, support session starts to unfold, that might happen. And you can say, and we'll sort of touch on this in our mock scenarios, something to the effect, I hear what you're saying, and it sounds that you're pretty upset about this, but this is not the focus of this meeting. And, perhaps there can be another meeting set up to go over the specific details of how to change the outcome for the next patient. But right now we want to talk about how people are doing, how their reactions were to this situation.
Excellent.
So in exploration, which is what you just actually kind of segued into, Mary Pat, was what you really want is people to talk about how it's affecting them emotionally, physically, not about what went wrong or right. And so one of the things we do in exploration is we ask them to tell us what happened. And the phrase sometimes that you keep in mind is paint the picture, what happened. And often people are in the room, some people know one thing, other people know other things. So that's really an opportunity for everyone to be on the same page as to what they, what occurred. And so some people will say, oh, I didn't know that happened. And, this is really the basis. You want everyone to be in the same, knowing the same things. So that alone is healing. That helps them. And the other thing is, instead of saying, how do you feel? Because people kind of don't like that sometimes, is, what was difficult for you? What reactions are you having now? What's going through your mind? There's different ways to ask for that. And, they may, like Mary Pat said, they may respond and they may just listen. But what you're really doing is validating, you're validating that this must be difficult, or you might be having difficult reactions, or you might be going through a lot in your mind, and normalizing that. So, and of course, the most important thing is your peers. They understand because, a lot of times there may be things, for instance, about the situation that's been in the media, and you can't talk about that, what because you're not to be spoken outside. But your peers, you can talk about it with because everybody knows. That's a very important piece of it. It's you're in the same boat. And so, that's one of the reasons that we do this, among others, is so that you have the people that are coming have an opportunity to talk about things that they might not be able to talk to in their families. And sometimes their families, well-meaning, will say, well, I didn't really like that you went into this field anyway. I hear that people tell me that, my clients tell me that their family has said. So you're not going to get that in this kind of situation. So you're exploring what is going on, what has happened. Do you want to add anything? No? Okay, so the next slide, please. So I love Snoopy, so I put him in. But obviously you need to empathize, but I don't think that anyone who joined this training today is not a person who empathizes. I'm sure if you're here, you are an empathizing person. And obviously that's crucial to providing a safe place for participants to share. So, and not only understanding the experience of others, but empathizing with ourselves. Like, we're not going to be perfect when we do this. And as Mary Pat said, sometimes when she goes, even though she's done this so many times, she's still a little nervous. That's kind of good because she keeps you on your toes. And you empathize with yourself. You're doing this as a volunteer. You're not going to be perfect. None of us are perfect. But being kind to yourself is part of being kind to others. You want to empathize with them, but you also want to empathize with yourself. So also being willing to accept people with different experiences, and you might think to yourself, wow, I wouldn't feel like that, but this isn't about what you feel, it's about what they feel or think. So you're really trying to promote feelings of trust, encourage participants to discuss things. We are going to talk about active listening and reflective listening, because this is a very obviously important part of providing help. The other thing I wanted to say before I get into active listening is that the fact that there is anatomy of how to do a session, is good because you know you're going to go through that and you don't have to think about what you're going through. You are going to be able to get right into it because there is a format, which I think helps when you're doing this. So active listening, I think we've heard this a lot, but obviously it's to require, you have to pay attention to what's being communicated verbally and non-verbally. So there's what the person says, and then there's the underlying part. And often this nonverbal is very important. Now, obviously on Zoom, it might be a little different, but your tone is important. Loudness, if somebody's angry, they often, they're louder. So a lot of what comes across is nonverbal. And you want to, a lot of times when we're listening to someone, we might be thinking about how we're going to respond. And then we get distracted. And I mean, I do this and I'm, working on it. I'm thinking about how I want to respond, but I'm missing what the person is saying, or I'm missing the nonverbal. So you really want to be, looking at them, leaning into them, really showing that you're listening to them so that the person who's talking feels understood. Because a lot of what this is being able to talk and be able to vent and be able to be heard. People want to be heard. We all want to be heard. And then we want to be supported and by our peers and by people who know what we're going through. So I'm sure a lot of you are very good at active listening, and that's another reason why you're here. So some of the other skills about active listening skills is you're not there to, sort of correct somebody. Well, that's not what I heard, or no, that doesn't seem right. You're not going to do that. It's, that's not your job. It's really just to listen and, making eye contact, have your faces relaxed, like Mary Pat said, I don't know if you can see me, but crossed arms, that's not really going to make people feel you're open to hearing them. And whatever their thoughts and feelings are, they're their feelings. They need to be supported and respected. And that's so important. Can't emphasize that enough. So that's again, how you provide a trusting and open environment is to be active and to not judge and not correct. You're not there to fix it, which you'll hear us say frequently. So the other thing is reflective listening. So you might say you're trying to clarify what you think you've heard. And, you might think you heard something, but it's not what they were trying to say. So reflective is trying to get to hear what you really, what are they really saying? So you might say, what I'm hearing you say is so and so so, or I'm getting the sense that you are trying to say this, or it seems like you are feeling, and you're checking in with them. Is that really what you're saying? Is that really what you're feeling? And what's also helpful in this is that often their peers they'll say something like that, or they'll correct, say, no, she was trying to say this. And because they may know the person very well. And the third thing, which is probably one of the most important things, is allowing silence. Now, most of us are uncomfortable with silence. We wanted people to talk, we want to fill up the silence, and that's natural. But just being silent gives people a chance to maybe say something because there's silence and people want to say something in it, or they want to just reflect on what's being talked about, and gives them a few moments to think about what they've heard, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. So I just recently watched a show called The Residence, and there was a detective on it. And when she was interviewing people to see what, had happened, she would just sit there and be really silent. And sooner or later, the person she was interviewing would say, well, actually, and, she got a lot out of them. And it's because she was silent. People are uncomfortable, they want to talk, but it also gives them space. And, we don't have to jump in right away. So that's important. And, but the most important thing too is to use your own style when you're doing this. There's we all have our styles. I inject humor, some people do whatever they do. And as long as you're being genuine, that's the most important thing, that you're being sincere and they can feel that. So that's the most important thing. So any questions before we move into the next stage of the anatomy of a session? Anything about the intro or the exploration phase? Any questions, thoughts, comments? Okay, well, so we must be doing a really good job.
I was trying to be silent there.
Oh, very good, very good.
One of my guidelines when I'm doing a session, and both Vivian and I have done sessions under the EFR or EAP context for a number of years. So we have had quite a bit of experience doing these sessions too. If I ask an open-ended question like, well, what do others think about how that felt, or what you were thinking of when you first heard about the event, something like that. You ask a question, then be silent. And be silent for a little bit longer than you would normally be silent. It takes a little bit of effort to not say anything.
Right.
Keep that
No,
space, and somebody will, if you give them that extra 5 to 8, 10 seconds, something like that, somebody will take that, have a little bit of courage to say, yeah, I did. And then they start, and that sometimes really gets the ball rolling and gets other people thinking and reacting to that as well. So
Right.
you'll get a chance to try some of this. That's what we're going to do in the last part. But so that's the exploration phase. Thanks, Vivian. That was a great
Yeah,
job.
I just want to add one more thing about silence. Sometimes people feel like they're not doing the right job if there's silence. Like, why is nobody talking? And that's not true. Again, what Bud said, and also they may just be reflecting on what's being spoken about and giving them a few moments to really let it sink in. So just, keeping that in mind. Yeah, so now next slide for Bud and Mary Pat.
Yeah, so Mary Pat, do you want to start with this? Do you want me to start? I'm not sure. We were both
Sure.
kind of doing this, but
Yeah, I can start. So the stress, when you're doing, after you've done the introduction and the exploration phase, you want to start getting ready to close the session. And, you want to acknowledge that we all react differently to, what went on, and we all process differently in the session. So people may or may not have a reaction. I like to remind people that in the acute phase, after something happens, you might find that you're not, going to the gym as often, or walking your dog, or, and it's down here at the bottom here, watch diet, stimulant, and alcohol use. Maybe after it first happened, coworkers are going out, having some wine together, some drinks, but now you're home alone drinking a bottle of wine every night, and that's not your normal behavior, right? So, we want people to kind of watch those things. And if you're like, hey, a month later, 6 weeks later, you're still reacting to the situation, that's when you can either call us, we can do a one-on-one, or you can reach out to EFR, which Bud will talk more about. We can talk about grief reactions. If there's a death, and we do in the bags have handouts that are labeled in folders that go with their, the topics that we're most used for. So you can leave those handouts. I like to leave them maybe in the break room or on the table after the session. I don't want people to get distracted if I leave them there. But I will say that there will be handouts for you to look at, and the EFR phone number is on them, which is very helpful. I like to tell people to be gentle with yourself, go with the flow, give yourself time. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to somebody that you really care about, instead of, I would offer to make somebody a cup of tea or tell them to rest, or don't worry, don't do that, I'll do this for you kind of thing. But when it's myself, I'm like, get over it. You got too much to do. Like, go faster, harder type of stuff. So we want to remind people to be kind to themselves. So, but do you want to Do
Yeah,
not-
those are all great. And, you know, as you look at this list, it's not like you have to go through each and every one of these. These are kind of guidelines. But what we're kind of trying to get across is that, look, you're human and you're gonna have everybody has different reactions, whether they're physical, behavioral, cognitive, or emotional. Whatever they are, it's to be expected. They're normal reactions to an extraordinary event. And so that's the self-kindness thing. Don't make it worse by getting down on yourself and saying, oh, I should be able to handle this, or I'm not doing this very well. Why am I crying, or why am I not sleeping, or why am I whatever it is. And sometimes those kinds of things will come out in the exploration phase, like maybe not sleeping well, or maybe being more irritable, or, you know, or isolating a little bit when you get home. And you want to validate that. You want to say, that's okay. That's to be expected. And part of the other message is you'll probably recover from this in the next few days or week. You know, we're all pretty strong individuals and resilient, and you're probably going to get over this. Not that it hasn't affected you, but you're going to get through this and use those normal coping mechanisms to do that. You need extra time to do that for yourself. If they don't, and if you still find that maybe it's a grief reaction that brought up other losses that you've had, maybe that's the signal to yourself that maybe I should reach out and talk to a counselor. And so you might say something like that, and that'd be a perfect time to say, here's our EFR program. We're going to tell you more about that and give you the kind of some of the catchphrases to use. But that's the kind of thing that we want to say, you know. So
Yeah.
And the other thing that I like to get across is that last point there is because they're really transitioning out of what might be a fairly emotional time talking about this, and in a sense maybe reliving it. We don't want them to kind of be re-traumatized, of course. We don't want to take them back to the original intensity of the event. However, we want them to now, okay, maybe they're coming back, they know they got to go back to work, or they got to go home, or whatever it is, whatever they're doing next. So what are they going to do? What's their plan? What are you going to do when you get home? Or what are you going to do, you know, when you see your family members? Or, you know, what's your plan for taking care of yourself? Get them thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add that you can't go through everything in this period, but I really like to talk about the fact that, you know, past trauma and grief might compound your reaction, because it could be something from very long time ago.
Yeah.
And it could be something that they have worked through and they've, you know, gotten past it and they've dealt with it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come back again. And it doesn't mean they're going to go back to what they were in that time, you know, in that situation. So I think that's important. And also, not just past trauma and grief, but, you know, they may be just going through a very stressful time in their life period, like, you know, financial, or they're having a divorce or something of that nature. And this is the last straw. So it's not the event itself, it's just that on top of so many other things. You know, so I always like to say this might be something on top of other things, and it's understandable that sometimes one thing will just push us in a direction there where we might need help because it's built up. And, you know, also how people heal is very different. Like, you know, Bud mentioned isolating. Some people do need to isolate, but some people will isolate and they'll keep on isolating. And they won't listen to other people. They won't answer their phone. They won't answer texts. And, you know, if that goes on for too long, that could be a problem. So any of this that goes on too long might need some help. You know, it doesn't have to mean that they're going to need a lot of help, but they may need a few sessions. And that's fine.
That's great. The other thing that I'll mention, we didn't write this down, but so now you're closing the session. People often are sometimes in a hurry to get on to the next thing, but sometimes if you can hang out a little bit after the close of a session, you might find somebody coming up to you saying, you know, I've been thinking about this and maybe I do want to talk a little bit more about it. Can you, maybe sometimes the peer supporter can then set up a one-to-one session or over a cup of coffee or something like that. So, or somebody might say, you know, I'm worried about my coworker who seems to be really either distraught or really quiet or whatever it is. And so in other words, just be available for a few minutes after the session too, to kind of, sometimes people will approach you with some questions.
Also, sometimes you might end up doing another one, like if there's been a death of somebody, and they're all going, or a lot of them are going to the funeral, they might want to meet afterwards to process that. And that's very helpful. So, you know, keep that in mind. And then that sometimes a discussion will take place about, I don't want to go to the funeral. I don't, you know, feel up. And that's another time where you can say, you know, whether you go or not, it's your own. That doesn't mean you're not grieving or you're not recognizing the person. We all do what we need, you know, what's right for us, and kind of letting them know that's okay. You don't have to do something that's not comfortable for you.
So we've mentioned a lot. You might be already thinking, wow, this is a lot. So that's why we've talked about it a couple times and they sent it out. We have this cheat sheet. So
There's
this
one
is helpful.
question.
Yep.
Thought I might want to, now I lost it. That was from Nathaniel. Can you, oh, here it is. Is there more support for a peer that might need to speak with a professional, or if we notice things escalating for that peer? Yeah, you can get in touch with us at the Employee and Family Resource Program. There's a number that, well, Bud or myself, but there's also a number that's 24/7, and we'll discuss that more. Or if it's for you yourself as the peer supporter, again, you can contact us. Does anyone
Yeah,
want
we're
to
going
add
to go
to
into
that?
detail and you'll have EFR brochures and other handouts. But yeah, and if you need to really make sure somebody gets to that next step, there's a way to do that too.
Yeah, you can call and talk, you know, call and start the process. You could even sit somewhere with them while they call, you know, get a private office or a private place and, you know, help them. There's different ways, but we're available if you need support.
All right, Mary Pat, you want to review the good old cheat sheet here? You're on mute.
It is exactly what it says it is. It is a cheat sheet and you can leave it right in front of you. You do not have to memorize this. It's a good thing to look down to, you know, like say the group is going a little bit awry and you're like, what do I say next? Or, you know, there's a lot of silence. You can just, you know, there's a couple questions there like, what is going through your mind right now? Would anybody like to expound on that? You know, it's just a very helpful tool. And, you know, it talks about stressing confidentiality. It breaks it down into the 3 phases. And like Bud said, you don't have to read from it verbatim. It's really just a guide for you. And I like to have it on the table and hold on to it. So, you know, I'm sitting there in sort of a non-threatening way and, you know, engaged in the session. So in the go bags that we have, they're like a messenger bag and it's in the protective services office of both campuses at SRC and York Street campus. These are all in there. And then we're going to go over what the handouts involve as well. And they're just, you know, Xerox pieces of paper that have every single topic, you know, grief, suicide, trauma, you're not alone. One is from the Red Cross. They all have the phone numbers for EFR on the bottom. So, you know, we worked on carefully selecting these that might benefit people. One of the ones I really like is what not to say to someone who's grieving. You know, we all feel powerless. And so we want to say something that we think is helpful. And in the moment, it can actually be hurtful, you know, when it's like, oh, I'm sure God had a plan or things like that. You know, people don't really want to hear that. So,
or you'll have another child.
Yeah. It's there's some pretty crazy things people can say. So these sheets are very helpful. And, you know, grief, trauma, stress relief, Suicide, unfortunately, is a topic that we do deal with when a coworker or a patient, even if, even if we didn't know the patient, but they were on our unit, um, commit suicide. So we do have some topics that address that. We have some topics that, help managers, because we can have sessions that will just include management. But do you want me to go in just quickly about how we usually have the session? Okay.
Yeah.
Typically, we do not have management join the meeting. And that's because we want staff to be able to open up and really just get out what they need to get out. Because it's not just about this one event that we were called for. A lot of other cumulative stress will come out.
Whoops.
But there have been times when the manager's affected too. So what I like to do is have the manager come in, and I'll say to everybody, Cindy is going to join us today, and we're going to stop about halfway through. And then when, after she's had a chance to share or whatever, we will ask her to leave. And then there's a time period for people to share without management there. So feel free to do that as well, because it is helpful. I remember one specifically, it was a pediatric case, Munchausen by proxy, and everyone was taken by surprise, even management, so she really needed to come and talk. And then we asked her to leave, and then staff, continued on. So just as an example.
And I'll also mention this, we now have a wonderful resource for suicide awareness and prevention called QPR, and there are classes that happen every week that are free to and available to our employees. They're 90-minute classes, and they're given by a physician, Dr. Rob Harrison, who does this again weekly. There's weekly classes. So when I send out the follow-up information, I'll send a flyer with that. If you haven't taken that, it's an evidence-based class. It's really good. We've had great feedback on it. He does a wonderful job. And it's QPR stands for question, persuade, and refer. But the idea is that it's a lot like CPR, and it gives you the practical tools and what to say and how to listen and what to question and how to get somebody to help. It's really is a very, very helpful class. So if you haven't taken that, you might want to take that, especially I think if you decide to join one of the teams. And it doesn't happen a lot, but obviously, if you're sitting with somebody who might be at risk, you want to be able to know what to say and how to help, how to support that person.
I was wondering, Mary Pat, I know sometimes you do in peer support, you have someone go on a monthly basis if there's like a really difficult.
Yeah, we have been, as the post-COVID sort of wellness initiative, I email managers quarterly now and ask if they would like us to come and support staff to help just reduce stress and burnout. And we've had 3 units that have been taking us up on it, and we are responding to one next week. We just did one a couple days ago. So we hope to build that up more. I know that on the management director level, there's a lot of change going on right now. So we're just going to pause on the emails until people know what their next steps are. And then I'll bring those back probably end of May, June.
Also, another thing that we could talk about briefly is sometimes if there's a particularly really difficult situation, we can come in as EFR and do it with peer support. So we kind of get all our resources in one room, and that has occurred very rarely, thank goodness, because it's usually when there's something very severe. But so we assess what's going to be helpful, basically. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Mary Pat.
Oh no, thank you. That was good.
Okay.
All right. So we've talked about EFR. EFR stands for Employee and Family Resources. Hopefully, you know a little bit about this, but especially if any employee should know about this because any employee can use this, but especially as a peer supporter, you need to know the fine details about the program so that as you might be telling people about it individually, or in that final stage of the session. So EFR is our employee assistance program. Essentially, it's run by an outside company, a vendor called Carillon Behavioral Health. And every single employee who is employed by us can use the program, whether you're per diem or part-time or full-time. You don't have to be in the insurance plan. Every employee can access this program, and every employee's dependent, family, and household members can use the service. There's a toll-free number, which is answered 24/7 every day of the year. All the services are free. There's no cost. Vivian's going to tell you in a minute about the counseling part, but there's other parts to it as well. And again, the biggest thing to emphasize is the confidentiality. What I like to say is that if you contact the program, you're going to be talking to an entirely different company. Their records are protected by HIPAA and federal and state guidelines, and names cannot be shared back to Yale New Haven Health System. And also, I point out that nothing goes into MyChart or Epic or anything like that. So very separate records and very, very confidential. Vivian, you want to talk about the counseling part?
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. So one of the parts that's very important is confidential counseling. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because it just said my internet connection is unstable.
Sounded good.
Yep, good. So you saw the number, that's 24/7. And of course, there's different ways that you can have your counseling. It could be online. It could be, like Zoom or Teams. It could be in person. And we also have a program called Talkspace where you can actually text as part of your counseling sessions. And that is available to everyone. So you can pick what would be best for you, or your family member or household member can pick that. We have affiliates, counselors throughout the whole state. And we also have an office on Howard Avenue across from the ED at the Yale campus. So you can see someone in person. I'm there and I have another colleague who's there. So that's also an option. And you get 6 visits free with no copay. It doesn't matter what insurance you have, or if you don't have any insurance. Sometimes family members don't, or you may be on a different plan than Cigna. It doesn't matter. You get those 6 sessions. So those are completely free. And then if you need further help, we help you with going in that direction. If the counselor takes the insurance you have, if you have insurance, and you think that the counselor would be good for you and it's a good fit, you can continue with that person. If not, that person can help you find another resource. It may be that you need some specialty, for instance, like an eating disorder, or maybe you need some help with substance abuse that might be inpatient. We're going to help you with those steps. We're not just going to leave you, okay, this is what you need, goodbye. And, of course, they're all vetted. The counselors, they have experience, they're licensed, they have all the right credentials, they have insurance and so forth. So it's very quick. You can get a counselor quick, because if nowadays, you have to press 4, press 3, press 2, this, you get right straight to a person. It's 24/7, and you can talk to someone right away. And that little picture there is our office on Howard Avenue, but we don't have those same chairs anymore. They got worn out. That's how many people use it, which is great. So it's any issue, small or large. We encourage people to come when it's small, because, then it gets harder to deal with for them. About what percentage of peers say, oh, that's a good question. About what percentage of peer support activations lead to an EFR referral? Well, sometimes you might not know, but I'll let Mary Pat speak to that. Oh, she's on mute.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm just trying to see the chat. My apologies.
Oh, that's okay. It's basically how many people get referred to EFR afterwards, but a lot of times they'll go and you're not going to know about it.
Exactly, which is great, right? So, we just offer it at every single session. I talk it up to my coworkers. I've used it myself, and it's been super helpful. I love the 6 sessions of it. I love that it's free. I love that I can do it remote. And it's really like, there's no commitment, it's not like you're going to see somebody for months and months and months, but it just gives you that, I think of it as a quick tune-up. So I recommend it. But yes, I have no way of knowing how many people take part in it, but we do refer it at every session.
That's a good question. That also brings me to another question, or really if anyone in this training wants brochures where they work, that's sort of apart from the peer support piece of this, but you just want to have some brochures to put in your break room, certainly let me know in the chat and I can make sure that you get those brochures. The more that we get it out there, the more it's more likely that people will use it. So feel free to either put it in the chat or contact us separately, whatever you would like, and we're happy to get brochures over to you. Any other questions about the counseling, because that is important? Oh, another thing is appointments are usually available within a few days, maybe up to a week. So they're not being booked out in the summer or something. Oh, yes, please, I'd like some brochures. Okay, I'll get your name and we'll get them to you.
And since you mentioned that, Vivian, about the time frame, they should be relatively quick to get an appointment, but we do know that sometimes there are access issues. I mean, the whole mental health system has been overloaded. And so if you're a peer supporter or just a coworker and you know somebody who's tried to get in touch with a counselor and for some reason there's been some difficulty, you can let Vivian or myself know, or you could even call the program directly and just advocate for the employee. But feel free to contact myself or Vivian, and we have direct contacts with the company, Carillon, and we can work with them to troubleshoot what the problem was, and make sure that person gets what they need as soon as possible. So don't hesitate to reach out. Sometimes, if a person is trying to reach a counselor in the network, that means they have to make another phone call to schedule the appointment. And sometimes there are back and forth and it's not as quick as it should be. So again, let us know if we can help with that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure I got everybody. So far I have Nathaniel Tashima, I hope I'm pronouncing that wrong, Kyara, and Christine. Am I missing anyone that would like brochures? No, I got you all. Okay, so yeah, we'll arrange how we can get it to you, no problem.
And we're going to send you a copy of the slides, so you're going to have all this information. The other thing I'll mention is that sometimes people ask, well, can I use this more than once? And yes, it's not 6 sessions per year. It's actually 6 sessions per distinct issue. So you could use it, like say you go through an event and you want to talk over the death of a coworker, for example, and you spend 3 or 4 sessions or even 6 sessions on that. You could then use it again later on the same year because of a stress issue or a family issue or anxiety or whatever it is. If it's a separate and distinct issue, you can use it more than once. And that's good to know. All right, so there are other services as part of the program. Work life and resource and referrals means that if you're looking for any of those things listed there, this is a good place to turn. They really do a good customized search for you. I know we all go to Google and we search things ourselves, and we're good at that. It's pretty easy to do in this information age. However, they really do have pretty good databases. And again, they do the legwork for you and they check to make sure, let's say you're looking for childcare or elder care. They'll call those places to make sure there are openings of those places that fit your needs or your family's needs. So they do that kind of extra step to make sure you get the most vetted and appropriate resources. And then you see that last point there, travel, recreation, home services, pet care. I mean, it's virtually unlimited. You can use this part of the program multiple times. You can use it for any of those reasons whatsoever. Like, for example, summer camps, since from what I understand, like all of those summer camps fill up really quick. And maybe you're looking for something for your kids over the summer while you're working or whatever it is. You can call them and they can do some of that research for you. So just an example. We also provide legal and financial support. And what that means is a free initial consultation with an attorney or financial specialist. For the legal part, if you have that initial consultation, then you want to continue with the attorney, you get discounted rates. Vivian, do you remember how that works? It's specific to whether it's family law or.
Oh, yeah, family law is an hour and non-family law is a half an hour. And needless to say, they won't give you the legal services you're trying to sue the Yale or something, but I think you probably figured that out.
Yeah, and then for the discounted hourly rates, it may depend, but in any event, if you want to retain that attorney, you get discounted hourly rates. For the financial services, you can meet with, they'll connect you telephonically with a financial specialist for that particular issue that you're looking for, and you get a free initial consultation and then some follow-up referrals for that. And then finally, workplace support means that we also will provide on-site services similar to what peer support does. However, when our counselors go out to the workplace, they're not peers. Obviously, they're part of the network that Carillon uses, and they're licensed mental health professionals, but they're outside the system. So we found that there's great value in having the peer support folks do the response as we've been talking about. But there is this added layer of support that actually we do sometimes. Vivian does this. I do it occasionally, but there's a whole network of folks and that can go at different times as well. So just be aware of that.
Also, if you know of something that's occurred and you want to let us know, the peer support or us, that would be great, because sometimes people don't realize they could have peer support or our services.
And again, just one last point, in that go bag, you're going to find EFR brochures. So when you're at a session, you're wrapping it up, you're telling people about resources, and you can always leave some brochures for people right then and there, so that that's how they can know, have the phone number and so forth. All right. Any questions at all about any of that, any of the services? If you think of something later on, again, just reach out to one of us and we're happy to answer any questions. Or if 6 months down the road, you're working with somebody and there's a question about just some nuance of the service, just reach out. We're happy to facilitate and answer any questions. So at this point, we talk about the relaxation exercise, which Mary Pat does a nice job of.
Okay, so this is one way I like to end the session. So we're just going to briefly practice this here, and you'll see us do it in the mock scenario that follows. The reason that I like to do this is because it creates an end point to the session. A lot of people have just opened up, maybe discussed some things that were painful or causing them stress, and before they go back to their jobs, their work life, we want them to kind of put a bubble around this and be able to segue to the next thing without this sometimes raw emotion kind of floating around in their psyche. So yeah, I think it's really easy. I just will ask people, I say, listen, this isn't prayer. This isn't, ancient Chinese wisdom or anything like that. Like, I don't want people to get all upset, but I just say, let's just take a minute to breathe, to let ourselves settle. And it literally takes 2 minutes. So I'm going to show you now. So we'll just say, if everybody could just put their feet on the floor and their hands on their lap and sit comfortably in your chair, and then just gently close your eyes. And we're going to do some deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And so we'll do the first couple together. So let's breathe in for a count of 4 and then breathe out for a count of 4, starting now. Inhale. Exhale. We'll do it again. Inhale. Exhale. And now just continue that on your own for about 1 minute, and then I'll gently bring you back into the space before we close the meeting. Okay, now start to wiggle your fingers and your toes just to bring your awareness back to your body. And gently flutter your eyes open when you're ready. And I thank you all for allowing me to do this relaxation exercise and to be here to facilitate this group session. And I wish you well, and I will leave my phone number if anybody needs to talk in the future. That's just usually how I end a session, so I was just doing that. So on the next slide, does anybody have any questions about that?
No, it's very nice.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. On the next slide, Bud, do you want me to share it?
Yeah,
From
so
my
I'll
screen?
stop the share and then you're gonna pull it
Okay,
up.
perfect. So we put together this quick video that shows, you know, what a session would look like, and we tried to pepper in some things that might come up. So
It's
just for your,
abbreviated.
it is abbreviated. Yep. So here we go. All right, everyone. This is
Hi, Bob.
our training video, and we're going to go through an introduction, the exploration phase, and the closing phase. And as you'll see in the video that we're about to do to help you understand how a peer support session looks like in real time, I'm using my phone because it has the cheat sheet on it, or you can have it from the bag that we're going to show you afterwards. And you can have it right in front of you because it's very helpful to just glance down and see, oh, I forgot that. And you can always add it in throughout the session. So are we ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Mary.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Mary Pat, and I'm from the peer support team at Yale. I'm a nurse at Yale. And I was just wondering if we could start by introducing ourselves, just to kind of break the ice a little bit. Can we start with you?
Hi, my name is Beatrice. I'm a nurse on the unit, and I've been here working the unit as a nurse for 15 years.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, I'm Mary and I'm a BA here and I've been on the unit for 10 years and that's all about me.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Hello.
And I'm Bob, and I'm a PCA and I'm a friend of Mike. And I've only been here 2 years, but he kind of got me the job and I've known him for a long time. So I'm like,
Okay.
I'm ticked about this whole thing.
Bob's a
Okay.
great, Mike's a great guy.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just get a little housekeeping things out of the way. And yes, there are tissues here if anybody needs them.
Thank you.
And it's
Thank
okay
you, Mary Pat, for
to,
coming.
Thank
you know, acknowledge your emotions in this session.
Yeah.
So this is not professional counseling. I just want to say that up front. This is peer supporters. It's emotional first aid, we'd like to say, and it's one coworker helping another through a difficult situation. And we all have things in our workday that come and go, and it doesn't phase us, and then something comes along and it just puts us over the edge. And this seems like it was one of those situations.
It sure was.
This is 100% confidential. I do not report back to management or senior operating group or anything like that. Feel free to express what you need to express while you're here.
Thank
I
you.
also do not fix anything
to let you know, I'm really just here as a sounding board and somebody who speaks the same language. You know, we all work in the hospital together, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
easier to talk to a coworker than it is to friends or family. So that being said, is there anybody here who would like to paint the picture for me and tell me about the situation? Because I don't really know why we're here.
Well,
Bob,
is this confidential?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause you're gonna be not talking to management,
Oh, no.
because I got some gripes there, but.
Oh,
okay,
yes.
Yeah,
Feel
All right.
free.
Yeah, well, Bob should tell you because he's closest, you know, to Mike.
Okay.
well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than, I just feel terrible that he got hurt. Really wasn't his fault.
Okay.
And it feels like we're just not keeping our employees safe enough. I think things could have been done to prevent this. And now the poor guy's out of work. He broke his hand
Uh-huh.
or arm or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and he's gonna be out of work for a while. He's living paycheck to paycheck, and I mean, I don't know what to do for the guy. I feel helpless, but I mean, and I'm angry because short staff, there's just a lot going on that it
Mhm.
just doesn't make sense.
It's just,
So,
yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I don't know if you know what happened, but I was just walking by his Mike's patient's room and Mike comes, you know, stumbling out. He's holding his wrist. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what to do. I don't know where you were, Beatrice, but I think you were close by. And you know, he's obviously upset and scared. And I look and I see this maniac in the bed. And I don't know, like, should I go in and get someone to help with the patient or should I
Mhm.
help Mike? And this is like not the way, you know, it's awful. I'm sorry.
It's okay. All right.
It's okay.
It's all right. Anyway, maybe Beatrice can add to it.
Yeah, well, I was near the situation and I immediately called security to the unit. Safety is the first thing, you know, me being a nurse on the unit. I, you know, did what I had to do, close all the doors and everything so that the other patients on the unit couldn't be exposed
Right.
to the violent scene.
Oh.
And of course, it would affect, you know, their recovery.
Mhm.
So I did that, and, you know, I just started doing all safety precaution measures, but the unit has been a little bit overwhelmed. I feel as a nurse, the nurses are overwhelmed being that we're short of PCAs.
Yes.
So we have to kind of pick up extra slack because we're short on PCAs and we don't have enough of them because they're our right and left hand on the unit throughout the course of a shift.
Yeah.
So we're really working really much with a shortage of people that's, you know, gonna help us, you know, on the minimal things that we normally, you know, don't carry out during the day. We rely on them very much. And then just to see the loss is affecting the unit drastically. We're frustrated, we're feeling burnt out, we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling unappreciative. We don't have a voice. We talk about it, but who hears us?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been able to sleep and, you know, apparently, you know, we can't give our PTO to him any, you know, because of the new rules and
Correct.
I just, you know, I just feel very on edge.
Mhm.
Like I'm not sleeping that great.
Mhm.
Wasn't eating and my family, you know, they're great, but they don't really get it.
I understand.
You know, I mean, like, I don't know, they just don't get it. They like say, well, you should leave the job. Well, it's not that simple. So I don't know. I don't know what's, I'm just trying to like calm myself down.
Mhm.
I don't like this anxiety.
And the empathy because we're now lost another valuable employee to our unit. So him having to go through that situation to not be here, you know, when you think about not being at work, you don't think it's an act of violence. You think it's retiring, going on vacation.
Right.
You know, you
Good
never,
point.
yeah, you never think it's an act of violence against you. So it's unexpected, like we're not
Sure.
prepared. We're, you know,
No.
no one on the unit was prepared for this to happen, I think.
And everyone comes to me because I'm like, you know, I'm there, I'm in the front.
Mhm.
And, you know, some of the family members were asking what's going on. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. What do I tell them? You know, I didn't feel like.
can't you do something about this? I mean, this is, shouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. I mean, we're short-staffed, as you've heard. The guy's a great guy. I mean, it's just,
right back.
That's a good point, Bob. I do want to come back to that. Beatrice, I just wanted you to finish. Mary, you were saying something about you're on the unit and he's not there.
Yeah, I just feel like, a lot of family members will, because they come to me first.
Oh, right.
Like
Okay.
that's I'm the front
First
person,
contact.
yeah. Then the other PCAs are coming to me and they're all upset and I just feel a little overwhelmed, like what am I don't know what to tell the families. I know we can't tell them things, but they want to know. And then the other PCAs are upset and I don't know how to help them. I feel like it's too much.
Seems like you can't get a break from it
No,
when you're at work. It keeps coming
No.
up.
yeah, well, that's why I'm not sleeping.
Oh,
We still gotta work with this guy. This guy is
right.
dangerous. I mean, you never know. He's seemed fine one minute and then the next minute he's off and look what he did to Mike. It's,
So he's still a patient on the unit.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
We do have him in restraints, so that's a little bit comforting, but the fear is still there about another patient being able to attack one of us.
Yeah,
as an
that's right.
employee.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like you're on
You never know what's
walking
gonna
on
happen. Yeah.
eggshells all the
Right.
time. And I just have this low level anxiety all the time and I just don't know what to do. I'm tired.
Me too.
I'm angry.
I'm tired.
Pisses me off.
I'm tired.
When
too.
did this happen?
Was it a couple of days ago?
Yeah.
So
Or
this
three-
week?
3
this-
days.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
maybe
it's-
3 days.
First
He's gonna be out for a while.
Yeah, I
He's
think
gonna be
it's,
out for
yeah, he was right. It
A
was
few
first
weeks or
shift.
more, and he's like I said, living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of us are.
Yeah,
So you know him personally?
yeah.
Mhm.
His family, they're struggling. They don't know what to do, how they're gonna make ends meet. Of course, he's upset. He's worried about them, and I
Yeah.
wish there was something we could do more directly. I mean,
Yeah, and then
this is
he's,
nice and counseling, but we need to help him and we need to make this so that it's better for us and safer for us and we have better staffing.
Right.
That's what I mean, who can we tell? Who can we, I know you said we can't fix it, but yeah, we gotta do something.
I do hear that powerlessness over the fact that it happened, over the fact that how do we prevent it from happening again?
Mike feels like he got duped, like he turned his back for 1 minute and, he sort of feels like, did I miss something? Should I have not let
Yeah.
this happen? I
That's
feel
a-
bad for him because, it's bad enough with them without second guessing yourself.
True, very true.
But this is nice that we can have a place to talk about this because we don't get a chance to collectively talk to
Yeah.
each other about our feelings on a unit because we're so busy working and
That's true.
keeping the unit moving. We don't have that quiet
Yeah.
place or private place. So, that's why our case manager, I think she said there was something that she could help us with
Right.
moving forward.
And she recognized that you probably don't want to talk to her about it,
Talk to us,
because you
yeah.
wanted, so she called the peer
Yeah,
support
the
team,
charge-
and that's
our
where we
charge
come
nurse.
in. So it's just like
Yeah,
removed from the management or feeling like you're gonna get in trouble for saying what you need to say or want to say, so you can start processing this event. Sorry,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, because we was going to our charge nurse about it and we thought she was the fix-it person, but unfortunately, she said that, she wasn't, but she did have a resource that can come on the unit and try to give us some, guidance.
yes, that
And
is
she-
true.
And she said it was the peer support group.
yeah, I think. it
We never
helps.
heard of it before.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to talk about it because it helps my anxiety.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not alone,
Mhm.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I wanted to, as we get ready to close this session, I wanted to tap into that, Mary, if I could just bring up some of the things that you
Mhm,
mentioned
of
about
course.
the anxiety, not being able to sleep, you feel tired.
Yeah,
These are very common reactions. I've been doing this peer support team for about 12 years now, and I've
Yeah.
heard that from a lot of people when they go through something like
well,
this.
when does it start?
Well, normally
Mm.
after a couple of weeks, your body needs time to process
Mm.
this and your psyche needs time to process it and sort of put it to bed, so to say.
Have some wine, that's what I
Well,
think.
some people
Yeah.
do that in the short
Oh,
term.
I know.
And that's okay, but if you find you're doing it
Too much.
nonstop,
Yeah,
you're
that's
drinking
what I-
more than you normally
Yeah.
do,
Deal
or
with this anger, I mean, you know, like.
you're very angry and it won't go
How do we
away.
deal with that?
Then we
I'd
have.
rather have a drink and calm down, but
Right.
But yeah, you do have to be careful, I know, because you don't want to add that to that problem.
Then you got
yeah.
another problem on top of
Right.
another
I
problem.
know that,
Correct.
so I kind of know it, but
So no judgment in the short term, but if you find that it's affecting your day-to-day life moving forward, let's say in a month, you're still
okay.
in the same place, Mary or Bob, you're still angry. This is where I will offer you some information about EFR, and you can get 6 free counseling sessions from the hospital, also completely confidential. There's a phone number in here you call, you can do it on Zoom, you don't have to leave your
Oh,
house,
okay, well, that's good.
and
to
you
know.
can get the help that you need. Okay, so I'm gonna leave these flyers
That's
here,
nice,
but
'cause I get, for me, it's like, I feel like I'm walking every day, like I'm holding everything inside, because I just don't have anyone like to talk to about what I'm going through.
Right.
So I'm just like, I'm just stuffing everything
No, that's
inside,
not
and
good.
yeah, and I
Not
just
good
kind
for
of,
you.
I know, like if I I'm feeling like I'm just like gonna explode one day.
Yeah,
we should check in with each other too.
that's a good
yes, so that's
idea.
another thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now that we've all come together,
That's
you
true.
can be your own peer support group.
Yeah, well,
See
that's
each
very
other on the
true, because we
unit,
know how it
check
really
in.
is,
Yeah.
you know, and Bob, you know, if you need like anything Mike needs, like maybe we can give him some gift cards for like restaurants, you know, that he
Means
likes.
a lot, but anything
You
with that.
know, I think we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do a little collection maybe,
Yeah.
and
Brainstorm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe some meals, you know. Whatever you think would be helpful, we can do.
Well, I want to be respectful to everybody's time, and I know that you're busy and had to come off your
Always busy.
shift to attend this, and I'm grateful that you
Thanks
were
for
able to do
coming.
that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But one way I like to end a session before you go back to your job is just to sit for about 30 to 60 seconds and do some quiet breathing. Yep, a little meditation. It's nothing spiritual or religious, but it's just a way to kind of calm your nervous system after bringing all of these events back up that we just reviewed.
Yeah, and I go to sleep.
Okay, that'll be good because you said you were having trouble with that. So
Ah, there you go.
what I like to do is just recommend that people put both feet on the floor. Put your hand on your lap or on the arms of the chair, whatever comfortable, and just gently close your eyes. And just focus on taking a deep breath in. Pause at the top and then exhale out. Deep breath in. Exhale out. And do that for about another 30 seconds. And then start to wiggle your fingers and your toes just to come back to your body and the chair that you're sitting in and the room that we're in. And gently open your eyes when you're ready.
I didn't think that was gonna work. I was kind of a skeptic, but I
That was
actually feel a
good.
little bit calmer.
That
Good.
was good.
And that's
Grounded.
something, that's
Thank
something
you.
you can do throughout the day.
That was good.
That is a tool you can use. And I brought some flyers and it's about what to do after traumatic
Yeah.
events. So
Yeah.
please feel free
that's
to
good.
take,
I'm gonna give it to my family
pass
because
these out to
I
each
keep on
other.
saying, you know, leave the job, and I wanna.
A lot of
I'm not
family members
leaving
say
job,
that.
you know?
Right,
At
they're
least not
trying to
now.
protect you. And it doesn't necessarily feel helpful, does it, when
Yep.
somebody
Yeah,
says
I mean,
that?
well,
Cause it sounds like you like your job,
I do,
But
I
this
do
was-
like my job.
a hard situation.
Thank you.
I don't know about this though. Is this, you said it's free, it's confidential? I
It's
mean,
free and confidential.
what, don't they get records of who went to it?
They
and
can't, it's protected by HIPAA.
Mm.
Your manager doesn't know, the only people that
HR?
know are no,
Okay.
Yeah, it's
doesn't
not
go
an
in your
epic-
file, no,
HR?
no.
Okay,
I've used it myself, I promise. It's
And,
a very
Can
good
you ask if you
resource.
want a female or a male?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, you can.
no offense to males.
No, but those are good things. Those are things
none taken.
that help people feel safe if they can,
Yeah.
decide that. So I thank you for trusting me to be here at this session.
Thank you for
And
coming.
I
Yeah,
am
thanks for
honored
coming.
and thank you
So
for
what
all
do you
that
just
you do.
tell, what do you just tell the person who got this arranged? You just say we had it?
And yes,
Oh, okay.
and we're all set. And it's up to you to go further with some of the things you talked about and, action items for change, but for our purposes, this was the
Mhm.
peer support session, and I'm leaving my number. And if anybody wants follow-up or a one-on-one, I'm available for
Okay,
that
that's
as
good.
well.
That's
Well,
what
that's
I'm
nice.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's great you do this.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Okay. That's it. What is that doing again? Sorry,
Not coming across.
it's not?
No,
Oh, good. It's just something on my computer.
yeah. Well, we're
Sorry
gonna
about
take a break, but any quick last questions before we give you 10 minutes to for a necessary break and before we come back and do the mock scenarios ourselves?
Yeah.
Any
Any
questions
questions?
about that?
Hopefully it was helpful.
Well, good. So I've got 2:53. Let's come back at five after three. Let's give you 12 minutes. Sound good, everybody?
Yeah, that's good.
You then.
Thank
See you then.
All righty. All right. Everybody back? Gonna get started again.
Okay.
I will say this before we go, if you can hear me, if you're back, I see there's a number of folks without video on. If you are able to put your video on, it really helps at this part of the class, because we're gonna put you in two breakout rooms.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, we're gonna actually, practice a couple of scenarios and process it. But it'll be easy. Basically, we're gonna break it down, each scenario, into those stages that we talked about. And I sent out the cheat sheet to you all beforehand, so hopefully you have that handy. You might want to have that in front of you. And because we are going to ask 2 of you in each group to volunteer and try being co-leaders. Doesn't mean you have to do it perfectly. There is no perfect, even we don't, with all our experience, there's no perfect way. You just follow some of those basic guidelines and kind of try to go through those steps as we laid them out. But as I said, we're going to do the scenario, this first number 1. I'll let you read through it. And one of us will be in each group. And we're going to stop after the each stage. So we'll stop after the introduction, see if you have any questions, maybe do a couple of pointers, and then we'll do the exploration phase, and then we'll do the closing education and information, and then we'll all come back and process a little bit as a full group. Do we have everybody? Anybody not here? See, we have, you can, like I said, good. I see a number of you got your videos on. So there's a few more without videos. Are you able to put videos on? Now, sometimes not everybody has a camera, but if you can put your video on, that would really be helpful. Thank you. All right, any questions? Take a minute to read this over. Try to get a sense of it, because you're not going to see this when you're in the group. Patient in mid-30s, has a heart condition, diabetes. He was in a med-surg unit where you're working. He coded. You worked on him for a while, but he unfortunately died. Has 2 kids and a wife. You got to know them. They visited, and he was there for a week. So it was unexpected, sudden and unexpected, and that's often what kind of really throws us off. Had pictures of the kids around. He talked about them a lot. Definitely a family man. Family was important to all of them. Wife visited daily. So the actors in the roles, somebody could be a nurse, a PCA, a doctor, a BA. There may be other roles involved on the team, and then we need 2 people to lead. So once we get into the breakout rooms, we need 2 volunteers for that, the leaders, and then others can pick a role. And we have kind of a time frame that we're going to follow. So each section will do for, like, the first one will be like 4
Somebody
minutes.
doesn't,
Get to the
somebody
rules.
doesn't have a mic available. Well, you can sit
Okay.
in and, just listen. If there's anything you want to say, you could probably put it in the chat. I don't know how that works with a breakout room, though.
Yeah, camera works, but not the mic. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
You could be an observer, and
Yeah,
maybe when we kind of get back, you could either use the chat for your observations or questions, either once we process in the groups and or when we get back.
yeah, that'll be fine. At least you can hear us, right? Oh, maybe not. Oh, she can't say. Oh, yes, you can. Good. Well, that's the main thing. And same with Kara. You can hear us too, right? Okay.
Okay, so Erica wants to be in the same group as Etchel, sharing an office space.
Oh. That makes
All
sense.
right, well, I'm gonna do this randomly, so I may have to reassign you once I do it. So Erica and Etchell. All right. Anybody have any questions about the scenario itself? All right, let's get this started. Here we go. Let's see. I'm moving people around here, so a little bit, so before we kind of open the rooms. All right, this should work. Let's give it a try. Here we go. So Dr. McClendon, I see you haven't joined that group yet. If you could, I think you have to hit the join button. There you go. And same with Kyria, even though I know you don't have a mic. Why don't you join that room and you can listen in, okay? You know, you can't speak up. Could you have a question, Kyria? Maybe use the chat. But you need to opt into that group. You need to, there's like a join button. Can you hear me, Kyria? Sorry, I don't know if I'm saying your name right.
Want to just go yourself, Tom? Is it Thomas or Tom?
You could call me Tom. If somebody wants to co-lead, actually, that would
Yeah,
be-
but it'd probably be good if somebody joined you. Anyone want to join, Tom? Okay.
all right. I'm on an island.
I can
Oh,
do it, Tom. I don't mind.
I don't see join, I think. Hold
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
join Tom as a co-leader.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Chet.
Chat. Thank you.
I like
Okay.
working with Tom anyway. He's usually there when things go wrong.
Well, that's a
And
good.
there's
thing,
going
I
to be
guess.
two scenarios. If we have time, there'll be two scenarios. So
Yeah, then you could
somebody can
switch.
get another chance at the second one.
Tom did the training online before, so he's a pro.
Oh, I'm not a pro. I just want to make
I'm
sure.
only
Right.
teasing you. All right, so do you want to, we need to figure out who's the RN, BA, doctor, or PCA, whatever you want to be.
Try to do that quick so you can get going into that first stage.
I'll do the RN. What is she doing then?
Okay,
I'm gonna
Erica's
go into the room.
RN.
Yeah.
And Dr. McLennan, are you doctor?
Yes.
Okay. And so anyone want to be a BA or a PCA? Okay.
Okay, would someone like to share what brought us together today?
Well, I'm a little saddened with the unexpected death of my friend. You know, I hear him talk about his kids all the time, the kids' picture. It just makes me feel so sad that he was here today and just unexpected, just gone like that. And here we are, still going on with work, still going on with life, and yet and still his children are suffering, his family's suffering, his wife is suffering.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, it sounds like you're feeling really upset about what happened, and that makes a lot of sense. It's totally understandable to feel that way.
Thank you.
So we have about 1 minute left on the intro phase. Is there anything else you guys saw on the cheat sheet that you think you would want to add before we discuss it?
And Mary Pat, you could probably take like 2, even 3 minutes, because I think you're ahead of the other group.
Okay,
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
you have a little extra time.
okey doke.
I think they did a very
This is a safe place. Chet, do you have anything to add to that?
No, my name's Chet. I'm an emergency nurse at the York Street campus, and happy to be a member of the peer support team. And like Tom said, we're here on a very confidential basis. We were activated because somebody, one of your coworkers on this unit, felt that this would be a valuable use of the peer support services that are available here at Yale. So we're happy to be here, and looking forward to hopefully helping you guys through this event.
Okay, so that's intro. Let's stop for a second. Great job, guys. Anything, how about the rest of you? What did you think? Did that make you feel comfortable or?
I think they did a very good job.
Yeah, they did. Very good job. Any other comments or no? Okay. Yep, very good. So why don't we go into the exploration, which is kind of the meat of the matter, and we'll give about 10 minutes for that.
Okay.
Well, you have more like about 8 minutes,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We're down to 8.
and then
Okay,
a couple of minutes to process.
right. Okay, 8 minutes.
So we'll have everyone go around the room and introduce themselves and their role on the unit.
All right, I'll go first. My name is Achal.
That's great. It's a tool, use it. But did the next group move on to exploration yet? Or are they still on intro?
Just did. Yep.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So now this is when everybody else is going to chime in. You did great introducing yourselves. So now we're into the exploration phase. So either Anne or Alishba, how do you want to encourage the group to get into the meat and potatoes, if you will?
We can prompt them like it says in the cheat sheet.
Sure, go for it.
So would anyone like to share what's going through your mind right now?
I can share. I am having flashbacks of doing CPR for this patient, and it's difficult to think that he went from having a conversation with his family to being in that position where I had to do CPR, and then the outcome was not what we would have hoped. So it almost feels like we're unsuccessful in a way. I know this stuff happens, but it's definitely difficult to feel like you didn't succeed with his family being there.
I agree. because this man was very young, and then we have some opportunity to save his life, and then could be turned to successful CPR. However, it turned out to be opposite way, really, really like catastrophic. Young wives and then two young minor kids.
Mhm.
It was just heartbreaking, and I can't really forget this whole event.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds very overwhelming. It's totally understandable for you to feel that way.
And it's very good though that you guys are talking about it and that you have the support of each other.
What are some of the reactions that you guys have been having?
Well, the morale in the area has definitely gone down since it has happened. It's like everything is still going on and yet he's not here. And it's sad that we have to keep going, keep working with this event that just had happened.
I just feel like I can do my job like more like have I lost my competencies?
There you
Like
go.
make a long
Yeah.
story. And then like I feel like I can sleep that much very well. Every now and
Be something valuable to share.
We just talk about like after the event, we just talk after that we feel that we did our best, and you know, we have give a little bit of support to the family too after. But it's not enough. So then our manager was asked us to call you guys.
So many of the feelings that you guys are feeling are actually really normal feelings. And it helps to talk about this, and that's why we're here, is we want to listen and lend an ear and help you guys get through this event. And sometimes you might not feel these feelings right away. Sometimes you feel them, a few days or even weeks later. And most of these reactions are really, really normal.
Okay, I think we can stop and just process unless you want to do anything else.
No, I guess we'd go into like a breathing exercise and offer the EFR, referral at this point, and
Yeah, good point.
go from there.
Yeah, actually that you can do in the closing session. So you haven't
Oh,
missed
I'm
it.
sorry. I thought you were ending the whole thing. Gotcha.
Oh, no, sorry. I must have.
Let me get back into my role.
Sorry.
Right, take a couple of minutes to process what you just did.
Yeah.
and I'll check in
And
with the
then
other
we'll go
group.
on, then we'll go to the closing phase.
Right.
For me.
That's a good point, Christine. Let's pause there because we can address that in the closing phase. But how did you guys feel about the exploration stage?
I feel like everything wraps together, like the exploration, the closing,
Mhm.
like it just kind of all wraps together. But then I also feel a little awkward when they say how they feel, because I'm not sure 100% how to respond right away. And I don't know.
That's a good point, right? You're being trusted with a lot. People are opening up to you and becoming vulnerable. And that the healing is in that, just being present and just offering yourself and your time. So just know that you are doing enough.
Yeah.
And if they need more, that's where EFR comes in.
Okay.
And I didn't hear the actual point that you're referring to, but that's where the reflective part comes in. So you might just say, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like you're feeling blank, whatever, sad or anxious, or that's all you really have to do is acknowledge it.
Right. You're validating that you heard them. And that's what you're doing as a peer. You know, I say this to my husband sometimes. I'm like, I just want you to listen. I don't want you to comment.
Okay.
And now after 33
Mhm.
years, he's like, oh, is this one of those times where I'm just supposed to listen? I'm like, yes. So, and you know, you bring up a good point. We presented this to you as introductory, exploration, and closing. So it's kind of fluid. We put it in a linear way, but there are things that will kind of go like this throughout the session, and that's okay.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to control everything. Just let it flow. But at the same time, you want to bring things out as they occur to you too.
But how are we doing for time? Is it time to move on to closing?
Good. Yeah, you're at the same place and you probably could move on to the closing. Yep.
That's what we'll do. Thank you.
Righty.
All right, Anne and Alishba.
Yep. Okay. Well, good job. So we can now go into the closing phase and we'll spend a few moments on that, about 5 minutes. I think we still have that amount of time left and then a quick process.
Yeah, even a little less, maybe 3 to
Yeah,
4
I think
minutes, and then take a moment to process, and then we'll all
Okay.
come back together.
Okay, so you ready to move into that, guys? Okay, wonderful. So it's 3:30.
So I want to take a moment to thank everybody for coming and joining the session and sharing your feelings today. I know sometimes it's not easy or comfortable to share those feelings. And like I said before, some stressors may or may not happen today or tomorrow or next week, but you just need to pay attention to it. And most of these reactions are normal after that. Chet, do you want to talk about some self-care things? And
Absolutely. So we want to also just put out, that self-care is extremely important in the aftermath of an incident like this. We want to remind you to be gentle with yourselves and allow yourself time to heal from this incident. And things that can help you with that healing is exercise, walking, talking to your coworkers in a healthy way, relaxation. And if you do notice patterns that involve alcohol, drugs, withdrawal from normal activities, anger, coping techniques that may not be healthy, either within yourself or within a coworker, we have resources that are available, and I'll let Tom talk about those resources.
Yeah, and sometimes these instances could be triggers from other events that happened in the past. It could bring up emotions. I'll share something personal with you guys. I was watching that show, The Pit, and it brought up a lot for me as a nurse. And I had to deal with some of the emotions of watching that, and I actually had to stop watching that. So it's true that these past instances that you have really affect who you are now and who you are moving forward. And don't be gentle on yourself, like Chet said. Sometimes you just need to take a few minutes away from the unit and go outside and breathe and just give yourself some time. But I wanted to let you guys know that there's other resources available to you guys. There's an employee family resource that you guys can use, and you get 6 free confidential sessions. And we have some brochures on that, and we could help you get to where you need to be with that. We also have some other brochures that we brought for you guys just for some additional information. And with that said, is there anything else that anybody wanted to add before we close? Okay. So usually we like to close with a breathing exercise, just a self-relaxation exercise. Chet, do you want to lead that?
After this. So it's nice to extend that, not an olive branch, but that continued connection.
Okay.
All right. Anybody have any questions about, doing the information education phase with the closing?
Do you have to do the breathing exercise, or can you use something else?
You can use something else. What would you want to use? What would feel comfortable for you?
Actually, I have to look. We do the centering group with prenatal moms, and there's a bunch of different exercises for opening up, for ending. And I would have to look through the book and see what else there is.
That sounds great. Yeah, we're not robots, do something that you feel comfortable suggesting. I think the point is just having a way to delineate, like, okay, we were just open and sharing. Now we're going to put a box around this, a safe place for these confidential things that we shared, and then we're going to go back out and do what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just put in to close this in about probably less than a minute now. So
okay,
sounds like you're just about there.
Yeah.
I think the group is too. So
great. I'll just ask if anybody has any other questions or comments.
hello, welcome back. Wait for the other group to join. I just caught bits and pieces of both groups, but I would say great job. Really, really good stuff that I witnessed and heard you guys practicing. So hopefully you'll consider joining. But we have one more to do. I think we have time for that too.
Yep.
Wait for the other group.
We are going to take, questions and comments about both, like, takeaways after we do the second case. So if you have anything, just hold on to it, and then we'll answer it as the large group.
Yeah, so it looks like everybody's back. we're going to go into the second one, but any immediate questions or comments or anything that comes to mind? I always like to ask the folks who led the groups, what was that like? What did you think? What was your experience like?
Anything you would
Anybody?
pass on to the next two people that are
Right.
gonna be in the hot seat in the next case?
Use the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
It's the cheat sheet. It's a good one. Yeah, that's a good advice. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, no matter how many times we talked about it, how many times we've done it, we still remind ourselves. Okay, that's the first one. Okay.
All right. So if there's no other comments or questions, we can look at mock scenario number 2. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. This one's a little more wordy, so I'll read it. You can read along. Coworker died over the weekend. So somebody you worked with suddenly and unexpectedly of a heart attack. She was in her early 50s. She was a nurse who worked in the ED for a long time. Everybody liked her and got along and knew her well. She was overweight, didn't take such good care of herself, but she took care of everyone else and was a very upbeat person. Her husband was laid off last year and is working part-time in a different field. There was a rumor that he is a drinker. So we add this sort of little kind of like gossipy kind of stuff because people do kind of know some things like that about coworkers. They have 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son, 15, 17, and 20. The 20-year-old is in college and the 17-year-old is going next year. She was close to all 3. She took care of an elderly father also, and so had a lot of stress in her life. She seemed fine when you last saw her. Many coworkers knew her and her family well. The wake will be tomorrow and the funeral the next day. So you're getting together for a diffusing. That term we haven't really used that much, but a diffusing simply means that initial session, sometimes it's pretty close to the event, and people are very shocked. So some had just heard about this. But Mary Pat said earlier, sometimes we'll try to wait a day or so, but this sounds like we kind of set this up so that this is the hurt is more like right there. Some just heard about it this morning and some knew about it for a day or so. So you've got a couple of different scenarios. So I think I can try to get people in the same groups. Let me see. Hopefully that works. Any questions? We'll just do the same thing. Let me find the control here.
Now you did say you're going to resend everything, right? I didn't really accept this meeting, so I don't have the documents, but you're going to resend it after all the attachments.
Well, I sent the documents to everybody who was signed up in
Got you.
LMS.
I
To-
couldn't
to-
figure out why I didn't have it, but I had it as tentatively attending. I wonder if that was why. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah,
All
I
right.
can
No
make
worries.
sure you get them and resend it. So,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
yep. Yeah, it looks like we have the same groups here. So here we go.
Dr. Tom?
I don't, but I will be a doctor.
Well, you can pick another one. You don't have to be a doctor. That's okay. There's no need to. What would you like to be? You can be whatever you want.
No, a doctor's fine. A doctor's fine.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna get right into the intro. And so Erica and Dr. McClendon. Do you want a moment to talk to each other first? Like
Oh,
we
no,
were here?
no. Then we can
Okay.
flow right into it, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Ladies first.
Well, I wasn't prepared because I thought I was
Always the gentleman.
You're both co-leaders.
Well, I'm Erica. I am I am here to support you during this time. I've been asked by your manager to come to speak with you as a group because I understand you have suffered a very traumatic loss of a coworker, and I would like to be here to talk to you about that. I would like to start. I apologize, I don't have my
Just
cheat sheet,
confidential.
but I would like to start by saying that this is confidential.
How they knew our fellow staff member.
Hi, I'm Samantha. We were close friends. We worked together, hung out on the weekends.
My name's Anne, and she was like my work wife. We would do everything together. Where I was, she was, and vice versa. I'm one of the godmothers to one of her children. I just don't know how to get by without her here today.
I'm Alishba, and I also worked alongside her. I literally saw her the other day, and now I'm just going through a lot knowing what happened.
Well, I thank you all for being here and taking the time to meet with us. Can someone describe a little bit more about her? Willing to talk about her a little bit more? And how this event is making us feel?
Perfect. Let's pause there. I think that's great. How did it feel for Alex and Christine to open up? Natural, awkward?
I thought they did a good job.
But they did a great job.
Yeah.
Seemed really good, real natural.
I might have some cheating skills because I am an assistant
You
manager.
know, I was gonna
Not to
question
sound
that.
like that. But
I
not
think
to.
from the first group, I think the first group did a really,
Also,
really
they did a good job too. We're the second group, so it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
Right, it always is. I teach trauma sim, and the second sim always goes so much smoother than the first one. But that's the thing. It also shows the more you do this, the easier it gets, right? I did want to say too, Alex, you did a great job and transparency about introducing yourself and that you were an assistant manager. One thing I might suggest to anybody in sort of a supervisory role is that, you could do a disclaimer like, I'm not acting in this role now. I don't have any reporting, duties or capabilities, just so everybody feels comfortable, just kind of level the playing field, if you will.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any thoughts about the introduction or anything, any ideas, anything you would like to add or see happen or not happen?
I thought they did really good. It was very smooth. They were very transparent. It was great.
Yeah.
Did they say any? Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, did they say anything about emotional first aid? Like not professional. Like I think they did though, right?
Yeah, Christine did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they hit every mark on the introduction phase then.
Yeah. I noticed it was a nice tag team. Alex, you added some stuff, and then Christine, you came in, peppered in some other things, and you both tied in the
4 days ago before she called out?
She did. We had joked about a patient situation, and I had asked if she wanted to get breakfast in the morning, but she had to pick up her son. I did get one weird text message, but I didn't think anything of it at the time.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you feel comfortable sharing what was in the text message?
It was just, she asked me if I was mad at her. I mean, we had joked about something, but she asked if I was mad at her, and I was like, absolutely not. Let's just hang out. We haven't seen each other in a while. Let's go get breakfast in the morning. And I know that one of her kids was autistic, and she had to go pick up her kid, and that's what she said. She couldn't come to breakfast, and then we said, okay, well, let's catch up next week.
I mean, it's certainly understandable there can be challenges at home and at work, but she seemed to be functioning completely normally before she took those days.
Yeah, she was a good, strong nurse, good team player, oriented a lot of people on the unit.
So what I'm hearing is that she was well respected, was good at her job. They've been doing it for a long period of time, and even those that didn't know her very well, knew her for a short time, knew her well enough to feel the loss.
She is a loss in the department because she is a hard worker and she doesn't really call out unless it is really necessary. And she is good to work with.
Would anyone else care to share their personal relationship with her or anything that makes you happy when you think of her?
She's very helpful and supportive of us PCAs.
That's wonderful. I hear that a lot in conversations that the nurses really or the PCAs rather really appreciate having a close relationship and in an equal relationship with their nurses. Would anyone else care to share? Does anyone feel like the staff could use some support, or rather, does anyone personally feel like they can use more one-on-one support to speak about this, maybe privately, or because we do have that available to you if you'd like. We can give you some resources. We have here with us much information and resources that we can share if you'd like to reach out.
Perfectly normal not to want to come forward now, but just know that we're always available. And stress and adjustment, it comes on its own timeline. If it's tomorrow, if it's next week, if it's next month, that's fine. It's all considered completely normal. You just have to make sure you take care of yourself during that time too, because it's really easy to not necessarily have harmful thoughts, but deviate from your path. So if you ever need us, we're here, and we have other things we can recommend to you for your support. And if you need any assistance, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. And just healing takes time. Be gentle on yourself. And there are 6 sessions that are available without without the need for a copay. They're free, they're confidential, and it's available 24/7 in one way or another.
Okay. All right. Do we want to share what we felt about the exploration as the leaders or as the participants?
As a leader, I would say that, in real time, of course, I will be more prepared with my cheat sheets and make sure that I have that with me as I get more comfortable doing this.
Yes, of course, but
but
it was not your fault.
Oh, sorry.
Not your fault that you didn't have it.
It may have been. I may have.
I can offer, at least right now, maybe we practice some moment of silence for her, and practice a little bit of relaxation for ourselves. So at this time, we can, if everyone's willing, practice a moment of silence for her.
It's hard, but I'll try.
And with that moment of silence, you're probably feeling your thoughts racing through your head. So I'd like to transition into some kind of relaxation technique. So if everyone could take a minute, practice some deep breathing. Inhale for 4 counts. Count to yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And continue to repeat that a couple times over the next minute.
Again, learning how to practice medicine again. It was a long process, and
Wow, that's
there
traumatic.
were, it was, you can say there was definitely not only missteps, medically, but also, just in terms of support. And so, with that, I wish I had an entity like this to help me through that transition, but I
Right.
kind of had to not only recover and go through all the different physical and occupational therapies, surgeries and procedures and things like that. I kind of had to assemble these resources while recovering. And there's a saying I always tell my patients: you have one engine and 4 wheels, which means with one steering wheel, you can't drive in 2 different directions, expect to go very far.
Great analogy.
Yeah, I like that. Can I just ask where you guys are at? Because I'm trying to.
We just finished exploration. Should we
Okay.
go to closing?
All right, if you go into closing, I think they're already finishing their closing, so they're a little bit ahead of you. So
Okay,
not to put the pressure on, but maybe try a quick closing and then do the closing and then come back. We'll come back
Okay.
to the main group.
Yep, we'll do. So why don't
Well,
you
thanks
just
everyone
take
for
us,
joining the
you'll take
session.
us out and take us out when you're ready.
I think
I
it's
like
a
the moment
very
of silence.
excellent point because I was like as a leader, a co-leader, I was like, it's going to really wild. Like, what am I gonna do? Both of them like I was like, oh gosh, what am I gonna do? It's gonna be happening like this way. Then Alex come here like, oh, she's doing little earlier than the breathing stuff. But I think that was really great moment to celebrate that this is a person's life and then everybody get back to the reality. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate her work. And if we can have some other more technique from Mary, you can give us some recommendation too.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a great technique. I did notice, Alex, that you felt like you wanted to like stop it a little bit, like because it was going out of control, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the uncomfortability that we talk about, like when there's silence and just letting that silence hang for a minute because it might encourage somebody to talk. And I think you could have let it go a little bit longer. And then I'll give you, since Christine, you asked for a technique, when we're debriefing after simulations, somebody might say something totally rogue or random. And then one of the things we say is, you know what, I hear what you're saying. Let's put a pin in that and come back to that later. So maybe with the group saying like going out, yeah, we're going out for drinks, let's go. And they're thinking like, okay, I hear you. Let's talk about that at the end. I have some tips for that or something like that. And just then pointing out, noticing, well, is this becoming a habit that's taking away from you? Or is this something that's benefiting you by coming together and celebrating this life? Right. And then you kind of keep the momentum going. Or, oh, I hear what you're saying about grabbing some drinks. Does anybody else have some other ideas of how to come together remember her, or how you're going to get through this in the next couple of weeks. You can always bring it back to the group and let the group provide. Yes, Chrissy, did you put something in there? How would you redirect someone who becomes angry?
Good question.
Yes, it is a great question. So does anybody have any ideas off the top?
Would you remove them from this? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, right? Because it can be disruptive to the whole flow of the group. I would let the person talk for a bit, right? But and then if it starts to take over and it was this like sort of explosive anger, you have to be like, okay, maybe remove them then. But that doesn't usually happen. But there are people who become emotionally very agitated, and you could do that reflective listening like Bud was talking about, and saying, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like you're very angry at the situation. Is anybody else feeling this way? Or just kind of softly diffuse it, but without, making the person feel worse, but without letting it overtake the group. There's subtle nuances, and the more you practice it, the more you'll, be able to do
Are you allowed
it.
to touch, to like rub the back while you're like, are you allowed to approach or say hi? Like, I'm gonna put my hand on your back now, or
I think maybe at the end, or let somebody in the group do that. Sometimes people will be crying, and they'll be like, can I have a hug? Things like that. Just like you would, with a coworker professionally. It's very hard because we're being intimate and sharing feelings. And Bud, can you add something on this? Because you're the professional when it comes to this.
I was just typing, I was going to close the breakout rooms in another minute or so.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. And when there are more intense emotions, anger, sadness, in fact, well, to acknowledge it, reflect it, and then see, like you said, I think that was great advice. What are other people's feelings? What are other people feeling at this point? And you kind of want to see that we're all feeling like some sort of like pretty hard stuff. And I remember one of the first teachers I had in this said, part of the purpose of these groups is people are feeling like pretty upset, and to give them the safe space to express that. And then the closing is all about regaining some control. And I think the relaxation exercise or whatever it is helps people, kind of get a little bit more centered and a little bit more feeling like their feelings are in control. Then they can move on to the next thing in their day.
Great. Thank you, Bud.
So yeah, so I'm going to leave, and then I'll be closing it out. And you can, if you have any other wrap up, you still have about a minute.
Okay. Thank you.
Where is everyone else? Oh, here they come.
Yeah, you're behind them, and then they sort of lag behind you, which is funny how it's sort of like a little bit.
Well, you start talking about other things.
Yeah, they got into some good discussion about stronger feelings when they come up. How do you deal with that?
Right.
Is a great question. So, but I'm going to hold that until
we
everybody
got
gets back.
into why people were doing this, like what was in their life that made them want to do this.
What was in their life that made them want to
be a peer supporter and take this training?
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Kind of a good thing to hear.
It looks like everybody's back. Let's 3, 4,
Yep, they are
12,
15.
17, just about. Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, again, I bounce back and forth to kind of keep control of the time and so forth, but my initial reaction was, wow, you guys are really great from what I saw. Actors too, you know, like played really good roles, both in leadership and just part of the being part of a group that's feeling all this stuff. So really good job. But let me pass it over to Vivian and Mary Pat. Is there anything you wanted to follow up on? Any things you noted, or what do you want to?
Well, I just want to also echo what you just said, that I was very impressed by the participants and the actors, and also just their willingness to take the time to come to this training and be vulnerable and practicing and so forth. I thought
Yeah,
that
and I agree. I know some people in our group were like, oh my gosh, after all that, I feel really sad now. So I didn't know if anybody else was feeling that way. So maybe someone can tell a joke or something, or get people back to feeling as they were.
Okay.
Well, I'll be contrary and I'll say, take a deep breath and notice what that feeling is like. Instead of running away from the feeling, feel the feeling for a moment. You don't have to we don't want people to get, I mentioned this in one group, the point of it is we don't want people to get overwhelmed by these feelings. We want them to be in a safe place so that they can feel it and then get a little bit in control, get some support from peer support and coworkers, and then know that they have that going forward. But to acknowledge those feelings, because this stuff brings up a lot of stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why Mary Pat's wonderful idea of peer support for the peer supporters. I'm not sure if you're getting good people coming, but I think that's such a wonderful thing. And also we'll mention that Mary Pat and Vivian and myself are available if you decide to join a team. If you went through a debriefing or a peer support session, I should say, and as a leader and it was hard and you want to talk it over because you have some feelings about it, in the moment, feel free to contact one of us and we'll be happy to one-on-one just talk it through with you.
Right. I mean,
Not
I
alone.
still do that with coworkers after I've done one. I mean, they're tough subjects that we're, coming across, and we can't just like, oh, well, I went out to breakfast. It's, it's something that's impactful. So I hate to use the word normal, but it is normal to have reactions, especially some things you react to more than others. And I think people in our group shared about some of their traumas in the past and then things that have occurred on the workplace. And I think that's what helps you be better peer, because you have your own experience you can draw from. And, that helps.
Yeah.
But I was just corresponding with someone who got kicked out after the chat, and she's not able to, her laptop won't let her go back in on Zoom. So I'm just checking to see if she has any questions. And so I'm just closing with her online, if that's why I seem distracted. I'm sorry.
Good. Somebody else did also right before we went in, after we came back from the break. So I don't know what's happening with the Zoom, but sorry about that. And so curious, just from anybody, what were some takeaways that you might have from this experience, either as a leader or as a participant?
I had a quick question that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Sorry to take a right hand turn. But when it comes to, I know that these sessions will include residents and physicians. Is the EFR the same for them as university employees as it is for hospital employees, or is it
Oh,
a
good,
different
good
resource?
question. Really
And
good
that being
question.
said, the other thing that popped in my head was travel nurses. If they're involved in some
Right.
of these incidents, how does that pertain to them?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought
Yeah,
those
that's a great
distinctions up.
question.
So first of all, residents are employees, so they are eligible for EFR. The university, if you're employed by the university, you have a very similar but different program. So there is a separate number. And, Mary Pat, I don't know, do we have in the go bag anything on the university?
No, not for the
Because-
university. We usually just chat like when there's somebody who wants something more, and then I'll like forward you their name, and then you direct them or you give me the information, and we do it on a one-on-one.
Okay. Because I have the number too. It's a very similar program, but it is a different access number and different web address.
But let's put it in the go bag so it's
Yeah,
there.
maybe we can get something from them that has a flyer that
Yeah.
we could have in the
That
go
would be
bag.
good.
That would be
There's-
great.
There's also some, in the clinic on Long Wharf is a combination of people.
Yeah.
They're not all Yale employees, and when I went there, I found out a little bit the hard way that some of them had a different EAP, and I have the name of that one. It's something like Kaiser, I think, or something like that, but I have the brochure and everything.
Okay.
So it's
Kaiser is
good.
what a lot of the fire departments in New Haven County have. If we ever
Right.
any of the fire
Okay.
departments, a lot of the one I work for has Kaiser.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Okay.
But this is it's good, we bringing it up because we could just make a sheet with the different ones if we, wouldn't be that hard. But you can, like you said, Mary Pat, you can contact us and then we can help steer them in the right direction.
Mm.
And that last point about travel nurses, unfortunately, we do not serve travel nurses because they're contract employees.
Mhm.
So we kind of fudge it a little bit. They certainly can be part of a debrief or a peer support session.
Right.
And they may have a service that their agency has. So you could say, you might check your own agency and see if they have an EAP type service. But the other thing that we've done, if somebody's really in need, Vivian is one of our on-site counselors. We have another fella, Tom Leutner, who does all virtual sessions, and then another woman who works on Fridays as a counselor.
And she's on site.
They're dedicated hours to us, and so we could slot somebody in. We have been flexible in that way. If you really feel, hey, this person really needs to see somebody fairly quickly, and I don't want to just let him or her hang, So if that's the case and you have a concern, contact one of us.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Any other
mean,
questions about, that was a good one. We should put that in our slides.
Yeah, good point. Also, we can, like, if you're the person who's with this person, we can, talk to you, obviously, and guide you with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, working in the ER, I anticipate these situations always involving residents, attendings that are Yale employees, and we have a
Right.
lot of travelers right now. So
Yeah, good point.
I just kind of
Well, also, that reminds me that we also have, a lot of times we've had the ambulance companies, their employees have been in the debriefings, especially when it's, involving the ED. I'm sure they have their own one too.
when it comes to AMR, I'm not sure how good it is or how strong it is actually. I wouldn't be surprised at all because of AMR's like corporate, the way they've been as a corporation, if they would just absolutely lean into the fact that Yale provides a support team for the region and
Okay,
utilize
that's
us
enough.
more than anything
Yeah,
else.
that's good to know. I didn't realize that.
Well,
But I've
any
certainly been in a
thoughts?
lot of them where they have joined in, for sure.
Yeah. Well, what are any thoughts about what this just the whole system is. Any questions or thoughts about, do you feel like this was helpful in preparing you, or is there takeaways or anything you want to comment about?
Well,
Want to get in?
if we,
Yes.
you know, for those that do agree, what does the training consist of? Is it like an 8-hour type of training session? Is it like 4 hours?
That was the
Is
training
this
session.
considered the training?
Yeah,
Oh my
this
God,
is
it
the
is?
training.
Yeah.
Please
Yep.
send me my cheat sheet ASAP.
Well, you're
Please.
not thrown out there though.
Well,
Remember,
right.
Okay.
you can
Phew.
shadow, you can
Okay.
shadow, you can then be with another person to do it.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
with like someone like, you know, who's done it for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bud will send out an email and see if people want to join after doing this. And then if you do, you'll get assigned to the delivery network that either is best for where the area you live or where you work. And then you'll hear from each leader. So if you sign up for the New Haven team, you'll hear from me when the next meeting is, when we're going to do some mock scenarios, and then, you know, I'll get you on the text page list, etc. So you can start and add you to the email list. So we have sort of some housekeeping stuff to do to get you up and rolling.
My understanding was like when I attend this class, it means I'm automatically join this team. I guess I got room.
So you feel, you thought just by coming to this, you're automatically enrolled?
Yes, that's what I understand. But I guess
If you want to be, but if you took this training and you're like, that is not what I thought it was, I do not want to do this, you will still get paid for the training and you don't have to do it. You know, we want you to be honest and make sure it's a good fit.
I really like it because I've been a nurse for like 4 decades, and then I'm helping a lot of young nurse to adjust to
Oh, good point.
nurse. However, like it goes to my end of my career. I would like to more get involved for the emotional support to the peer because it's really, really traumatized. And then that's why I think Mary Pat already started, but I think this is really, really meaningful to wrapping up whole, like, you know, my career as a nurse. So I
nice
definitely try to involved. Thank you.
So
Well, yeah,
what's
so
going to
you sounds
happen?
like you're interested, so you can go the next step.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is I'm going to send out a link, which is a survey that you can fill out if you are interested. And we need to know where you live, where you work, which team you need to be on. So there's a quick survey that you would fill out, and that will get you, as Mary Pat, one of the team leaders of that particular team, would reach out to you and get you part on the team and on their email and text distribution. And again, you're going to get support along the way. You're going to go to a session with a more experienced person. When you're ready to lead something, that's when you decide you're ready. But I think it is important to talk a little bit about expectations, because we do expect, not that you're like totally active all the time, but I think there are a few people like on Mary Pat's team that are pretty active. But if you join a team, don't be totally inactive and unengaged. Try to participate in one or two, at least in the first few months or 6 months or something, so that you get a little bit of experience and stay involved with the team and try to attend the team meetings. Those are important. And that keeps you as part of the team.
Sure. Thank you.
And you can join any team if you live in, you know, another area from where you work and you want to be closer to where you live, you can do that. You know, it depends on what's good for you.
And are the team meetings weekly, monthly, bi-weekly?
Bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly? Okay, thank you.
So they don't happen often, but
Okay.
Right.
Thank
Because
you.
In person
realize,
or Zoom meeting?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is it in-person meeting or Zoom meeting?
It's virtual. I usually send it out in Teams now, and I rotate the time. Either I do 8 a.m. to try and catch, you know, night shift 2 before they go to bed, or I'll do a midday one, you know, for when people wake up. as well. So it's bi-monthly. So we alternate business meeting with the peer support for the peer supporter meeting. So we can take care of ourselves as well. And, you know, since it's voluntary, you know, I don't want to overwhelm people with, you know, another meeting every single month. So do your best to, you know, try to attend 50% of the meetings is what we ask, just to stay engaged.
Sounds great.
And if you know any people that would fill the gaps that we've talked about, we'd love to hear from them.
And I will also send an evaluation of the training, so would love to get your feedback on that. So that's just another link. It'll only take about 3-4 minutes to fill out, so we would appreciate your feedback.
Yeah,
Helps
we've
us.
changed things because of feedback.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Any last questions? Or maybe give you back 10 minutes or so. Anything
cup of
else
tea.
anybody has?
Thank you for joining the training.
Yes, thank you
thank
for
you
all
very
your
much.
input.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for working with me.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for being a super studier and waking up to get here for the breakouts. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thanks a lot, everybody.
And I
All
will
right.
send out the brochures to the people who want it to get them. It might take a little bit, but I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, we'll keep
Good.
an eye on. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.